Terrific Tuesday afternoon. How are you? And welcome to the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook, presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website, where 100% of the revenue stays right here in the province of Alberta at PlayAlberta.ca. Now, had they put a line on the Oilers free agent spending on Monday, I think most people, myself included, wasn't going to hit on all those. 13 players the Oilers signed yesterday, whether it was at NHL contracts or in the organization. You know, guys like Colin Delia in goal and different things. But you look at their NHL players, and that's a pretty good roster. It's hard to argue with their roster right now. Now, I know some people are going to say, hey, they didn't change the defense. Valid point. Do I think the defense can be better than how they played next year? Yeah. I think Philip Broberg is going to be better. I think Darnell Nurse can play a lot better than he played. Like, Darnell Nurse has to play like he did in the first half of the season, not in the second half. So he's capable of it. Right? I think the Oilers, if I look at how things go, I think there's a better chance that they would look at change on their blue line at the trade deadline. I'm not sure there's going to be many holes up front. Look at their depth. Right? You brought in Skinner and Arvidsson, who are legit scorers, especially 5-on-5. Throw in with Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, and McDavid. They're top six forwards. Adam Henrique's an excellent third-line center. Now, Evander Kane, obviously you can't have all those players on the roster with Kane because they're over the cap as is, and they haven't signed Holloway and Broberg. I didn't even mention Holloway as a guy who now, is he a top six forward yet? Probably not, but that's okay. If he's on your third line and has the opportunity to move up and down, because we know that Chris Knobloch isn't just going to run out four lines all year long. It's not going to happen. He's going to switch and dabble and try different things, because the Oilers, I expect him to be a very good regular season team. He's going to be able to try different combinations and trios. So come playoff time, if he needs to, they're all used to playing with one another. I don't think that's going to change. Why would it? They went to the Stanley Cup final, Game 7. His strategy worked. They didn't lose because he tried different line combinations in the regular season or in the playoffs. I would argue the different combinations helped them. But defensively, if you look at Cody Ceci as he enters his final year of his deal, and if they feel they can upgrade their blue line at the trade deadline, you could include him in the deal, because the team says, hey, you take this guy because we're going to give you a pick or whatever, and it makes the money work. Right? To me, that's very plausible to happen. And also, defensemen today probably aren't available who are going to be available at the trade deadline. Remember, 2 years ago at this time, Matthias Ekholm was not available. He was not available in October. He wasn't available in December. He wasn't available in January. He did not become available until mid-February. I remember Ken Holland told the story. Right? They'd hey, what do you think? No. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you know what? Yeah, he might be. What do you got? And then the conversation happened. Now, he had term. He wasn't just a pen and UFA. So it doesn't have to be a guy just automatically who's a pen and UFA. It might be. But I was looking already. I went a year ahead to see who are the right shot D-men who are pen and UFAs on teams you don't think are going to be in the playoffs. Now, Jeff Petrie, I'm sorry, I would have very little interest in him at that point, but he might be available. Now, Adam Larsson's an interesting one. I'm just not sure, based on his mother coming back to Edmonton. Now, if it was just a pure rental, maybe he would. Right? Maybe he'd come and say, yeah, I'll come play there for 3-4 months. You know what? It means I'm not going to see my mom for 3 or 4 months. It's not it's not the end of the world. I don't know how often she visits during the season. Maybe more than that. I don't know. But we know that him re-signing in Edmonton is highly unlikely because of the sudden passing of his father. And that makes total sense to me. It's nothing against the city. It's nothing against the organization. That's bigger than hockey. That's what that is. So I wouldn't get too upset about the Oilers off season because they haven't changed their defense, because I think they've got lots of room to. And keep in mind, the same 6 defensemen who they have now are the same 6 defensemen that they lost Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. They're not awful. Would you like to improve in some areas? Sure. Would you want maybe a little bit better puck movement? Sure. From Cody Ceci, I think that's a fair thing to say. That doesn't mean you have to disparage him and call him terrible. If you think that you'd like an improvement there, no problem. Realistic ones. I'll tell you right now, I will be shocked if the Edmonton Oilers will bring in a defenseman who is significantly smaller than Cody Ceci, even if he's a better puck mover. I just don't see it. When you look at the teams who go deep in the playoffs, unless you have an elite player like a Cale Makar. And remember, when Colorado won the Cup, Girard wasn't in their lineup. Right? He got hurt. And they had Manson, and they had Johnson, and they had Johnson. Now, they had Taves and Makar for sure. But they had big guys as well. Everybody knows St. Louis's defense. Everybody knows the size of Tampa's defense. Everybody knows the size of Vegas's defense. Right? Look at Oliver Ekman-Larsson in their third pair in Florida. Look how good he played. Hey, he might have been their best defenseman in the Stanley Cup Final. Right? You saw it. He was really good. Now, Brendan Montour was okay. He wasn't great for them this year. And then, he leaves, signs a big ticket in Seattle. Good for him. But the Oilers, man, you have Skinner, who, by the way, Jeff Skinner will join us today at 5:20 on the show to talk about it. Like, I'm not really going to waste my time and ask him why he signed in Edmonton, because I think we all know why he signed in Edmonton. Hey, I got a good chance to win. There's McDavid and Draisaitl are pretty good, but we'll go a little bit more in depth. And, is there a type of center that you play better with? Because Draisaitl and McDavid attack the game very differently. I'm sure you'd play with both, and I think he'll have success with both, because Jeff Skinner, he's a shooter. And Jeff Skinner, basically since the day he came into the NHL, he could score goals. Scored 30 goals as a rookie, 18 years old. He's one of the few teenagers who had success in the NHL, because it is hard. He's had 5 30-goal seasons. He had another 40-goal season. He's had 4 other 20-goal seasons. I think it's 10 out of 14 years in the NHL, he scored at least 20 goals. And he's only ever had double digits in power play goals once. He is not a guy who needs a ton of power play time to feel like he's contributing. He can score 5-on-5, and that's important in Edmonton because their power play is pretty much set. I don't see much changing. Now, maybe Arvidsson and Skinner, they get a little bit of time, but did you know Arvidsson's only had more than 4 power play goals once in his career? He's not a guy who gets a ton of power play time or scores a lot on the power play either. Good problem to have. 2 guys who can score 5-on-5. Now, the Oilers were a very good 5-on-5 scoring team last year. 3rd most 5-on-5 goals in the NHL. So it was not an area of weakness by any stretch of the imagination. Is it a little bit better? In theory, I would think so, for a few reasons. I think Connor Brown is going to score more than 4 goals. I think Matthias Janmark is going to score more than 4. Now, it might only be 8, but still, that's double. All right, it's twice as much. Kane and Foegele had 32 goals 5-on-5 last year. Fogel's gone. He was 3rd on the team with 17. Kane had 15 in kind of a down year. Now, Evander Kane is the one big question mark I have now for the rest of the summer. And Jeff Jackson, in his comments yesterday, I felt really opened up the possibility that Kane might start the season on LTIR. We'll see. Because remember, it's 78 days till the start of training camp today. 78. And because Jackson mentioned hip, that's the issue for Evander Kane. It's a hip. Now, does he have athletic pubalgia? He very much might have it, which is, strain tendency can happen in your hips from rotation, tightness, can be inflamed pubic bone, lots of different things. Now, it doesn't always require surgery. And so they're obviously looking at their options, according to Jackson. But if he does require hip surgery, it would seem unlikely he'd be ready to start the season. So that would give them a window to come back. Now, unless it's like a 9-month rehab, it would seem unlikely that Kane's going to have to miss the whole regular season. But I guess anything's possible. We'll see what the surgery is. Right? If it's a hip, some hip surgery, yeah, you're out, man. You're out a year. Hip's no joke, depending on what it is. So they're going through the process now, and they will make a decision on what happens to Kane. But the fact that the Oilers are already $2.4 million over the cap, and they have to sign Broberg and Holloway, and if they sign those guys to between a combined $2 million to $2.5 million, that's still, if they put Kane on LTIR, they're still under the cap. So that would seem a possibility. And even without Kane, the Oilers still got good forward depth. The Josh Brown, Corey Perry signings, like Corey Perry, at 1.15 at first, I was like, what? Well, first it was 1.4, and then you found out it was bonuses of $250K. So that made it a little bit more palatable. And they're very much, what is it? It's basically if he plays 15 games, he gets most of that. I think he gets $150K of that bonus just to play 15 games, which seems like a no-brainer. However, when you look at all the other forwards they brought in, I think Corey Perry is kind of battling for the 12th, 13th forward spot with Derek Ryan. I know they play different positions. But Ryan McLeod, now, are they going to use McLeod as a left winger? Are they going to use him as center next year? I think they love the flexibility that they have in their lineup of guys who can play different positions. Dylan Holloway, probably better suited as a left winger. Now, Dylan Holloway, I think, where we're going to see an increase in his role next year is I think you're going to see him take Fogel's spot on the penalty kill. Chris Knobloch, when I had a conversation with him probably back in March, he talked about Holloway, and he goes, you know what? I'm not going to put him on the penalty kill now when he recalled him because he just felt like there was too much to put on his plate for a young guy. They had other penalty killers, but he said he will be on the penalty kill next year. So Knobloch's pretty much a straight shooter. I would expect that you would see him on their penalty kill next year because you're not going to get a lot of power play time, right? So you want to get him involved on the penalty kill just so you get him some minutes. Now, Corey Perry's not on the penalty kill. He gets a little bit of time on your second unit, although with Skinner and Arvidsson, maybe not. We'll see. But it's a good problem to have. Like the Oilers' depth now is really good. And I don't think their defense is terrible because did you know, fun fact, in the third and fourth rounds of the playoffs, those four teams, the Rangers, Florida, Dallas, Edmonton, the Oilers allowed the fewest shots per game and they had the lowest goals against average. Now, their defense, would you like it to improve a little bit? Yes. Is it more than serviceable to get you through until the trade deadline? 100%. So they can wait, see how the season unfolds, see who maybe becomes available on the back end. And then away we go. You can always get involved. 833-401-1440. Oh, yeah. We got Terry Ryan with us. He's early today. TR, my apologies, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, I'm all right. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm totally good. Conman just reminded me you're coming on a little bit earlier, so I like it. How was your Canada Day?
Oh, it was a nice weekend overall. My daughter had soccer, the Atlantic Championships out in Gander, which is a few hours from me. I played senior hockey out there. Got a lot of friends. And actually, I didn't party at all. It was really laid back. There was, because I decided to go out late, Gander's not a big place. Those of you who've heard of it and not sure where, type in 9/11 Gander or Come From Away. It's a great story what happened there in 9/11. Probably the most famous thing that I guess happened out of good fortune, out of a tragic event. Anyway, it's a great spot, but everything was sold out. So I got a campsite. I have a tent and a barbecue and everything, and I just last minute got a campsite. I spent 3 days there and had a blast all by myself. Except side note, I'm at the campsite.
Yeah.
And anyway, you know what? I'll save this for a Tales or a TR's Tale on Thursday.
A little teaser. I like it.
You're teaser. Right, because I could go forever. This is one of the most embarrassing things that's ever happened to me. But anyway, it was good outside of that. It was a great time.
Awesome. Well, we have Dennis Bernstein coming up. Give me your thoughts on free agency and the moves the Oilers made. Obviously, the two big ones, Arvidsson and Skinner. They bring back Janmark and Henrique and Brown. Like, they didn't really lose much. What do you make of their of the cap hits of the players and the players they brought in?
I love it. I didn't think they'd get Janmark and Brown back. I don't know why I thought Janmark would move on because he'd be offered some big money. But anyway, I love that. Not only that, obviously Arvidsson. I didn't see that one coming. I got to be honest. But if the guy stays healthy, and it's not a long term, right? I'm right. It's 2 years. Am I correct?
Deal. Yeah.
2-year deal for a guy like that. I think it's perfect. I really do. I think the sky's the limit. He never really. I mean, this guy. It's possible that he comes in and has a breakout year.
Yeah.
He's not. He's probably going to be top 6. Am I wrong there? And if he is top 6, he's going to be playing with players that are evidently more better, that are more gifted offensively than he's been playing with. And the only thing for me, the only question there would be if he stays healthy. But whereas, a team like Columbus got Monahan, I didn't really understand that. A guy with a history of injuries, signed him for 5 or 6 years. With Arvidsson, I think it's perfect. And I can't say enough about Janmark and Brown. And wait, there's another one I'm forgetting.
Jeff Skinner.
Yes, Skinner. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. The guy had 24 goals with Buffalo, which is like 86 on another team. I mean, I don't know. I think he came in early on. I remember him as a teenager scoring 25 or 30. I don't know. I think that has the potential to be a real good deal as well. And a change of scenery for some players like that with a lot of upside that aren't ancient. I think it's great. The boys got Perry as well. The Oilers signed Perry as well, and that would be my only issue. Don't get me wrong when I say this, because I can't believe at any point of his career that I'm even having any doubt. But as you've said, he's got the foot speed isn't quite there, and to me, I can't believe I'm saying this because I love Corey Perry, man. But the reason they got him last year was to get him to that fun. Like the guys who are there, which is mostly everybody, have just been through the most they can possibly be through. I guess winning is one thing, but you go to the game 7, 1-goal game, and in the manner that they did and coming back. And I don't know, to me, I don't think the Oilers lack for experience going into this season, but hey, they signed him. They know more than I do. He's got to be great in that room. And who knows if they get to the playoffs again. He's the kind of guy that'll obviously be healthy scratched here and there. Well, not obviously, but it happens, and happened this year, but can still be effective. So I got my fingers crossed for him. Love him. I just think he's a little bit foot slow at this point of his career. But I think the Oilers won the trade market.
Yeah, he still scored 12 goals last year in 50 some games, right? So he found like that to me when I look, I was like, geez, why did they give him 1.1? Then I'm like, well, he did score 12 goals. And so I get the foot speed and I understand it. And like, I wonder if he's a little bit like Sam Gagner last season for the Edmonton Oilers, where you know what, he's around, the players really like him. He's got words of wisdom. You put him in the lineup and he can produce. He's not the fleetest of foot, but he has a nose for the net. He knows how to score goals. He can still agitate. And, injuries occur here or whatever. Having depth is never a bad thing. And if he turns out to be your 12th, 13th forward, I don't think it's going to hurt you. I did find it interesting that his cap hit is 1.15, which if sent to the minors doesn't count against the cap, right? It's right at the level. So, there's, I think, a little bit of the method here to the madness potentially for the Oilers in that regard. So we've talked a lot about the MTR. We're going to talk about some other teams. Warren Foegele and Arvidsson, it's kind of like a trade. If you look at it, Arvidsson comes to Edmonton, it's $4 million. Foegele goes to LA for 3 years at $3.5 million. We'll go to LA next, the team that's faced the Oilers 3 years in a row in the postseason. They got rid of Dubois in the offseason. They brought in Foegele and they brought in Kemper, but not a whole bunch yet. Well, I guess Joel Edmondson at a pretty high price tag. We'll talk to Dennis about the Kings. Like, did they go sideways? Did they go back? Where are they? We'll find out next on the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube and Facebook, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Edmonton Stingers basketball face the Vancouver Bandits Friday, July
24. Welcome back, Jason Gregor, Terry Ryan with you on Sports 1440, Orders Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. Hey, boys, one of my favorite parts of the show is TR starts his stories. I went to insert town here, and I got a lot of friends there. He's got friends everywhere from the rig. Well, it's true. He's a likable guy. I mean, likable guy. He's been around the block. Yeah, well traveled. It's kind of like a gypsy almost, ATR.
It's a lot like a gypsy. I've said it. I left here, went to Quesnel, BC, couldn't go any further in North America. Kennewick from there, then back to Montreal, Fredericton. Played all over the States, and then ball hockey started.
Red Deer,
senior hockey, Red Deer, Bentley. So it's been all levels of hockey from senior to the NHL, literally in North America and the world, and then a lot of dropping pucks lately and touring and for different reasons. So honestly, I've knocked off a lot of cities and towns in North America for sure, and quite a few in Europe as well.
Oh yeah, it's great. Let's get around the NHL now, brought to you by McDonald's. And guess what? You have under 2 weeks left to try the strawberry cheesecake McFlurry. Strawberry sauce made with real strawberry pieces mixed with chunks of cheesecake-flavored cookie dough. Oh, I tried one on the weekend. So now I love cheesecake, though. But, man, it was good. So check it out, the Strawberry Cheesecake McFlurry. But you only have less than 2 weeks left. Only at McDonald's. As we welcome back, good friend of the show from the fourth period. Also on Sirius XM, Dennis Bernstein joins us. Dennis, welcome back, my man. How you doing?
I apologize for the all white. I'm at the King's office for development camp, and I needed a quiet place to do your show, Jason.
Okay.
So they gave me one of the offices, and it's all white. So I'm not in heaven yet, but it just appears that way. But great to be with you again and talk free agency in the oil.
Hey, give me your thoughts on an absolutely wild free agency. Of course, $1 billion in total contracts. Now, some of that will get bought out before it's all said and done. We both know that. But what did you make of the deals? And what were there a few that kind of caught your attention as you like, hey, I really like that signing for the player and the team?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's funny, Jay, because over $1 billion, but I think the highest deal was Reinhardt's. So nobody went hog wild crazy. Maybe you could say Gensel at $9 million. Look, how do you not like what Nashville did? Right? What was the rap on Nashville? They had 99-point team, can't score in the playoffs. Well, guess what? When they play game one of the playoffs next season, they'll have 3 40-goal scorers. Forsberg, who's been there, a Conn Smythe winner in Marchessault, who scored 42, and this guy named Stamkos, who might get a few goals in the postseason with 40. Like, this could be a dangerous team. I'm not anointing them at the top, Jason, but certainly they did very, very well. I'll talk about the Oilers right now. Who did Leon have on his second line in the playoffs? Fogle and Holloway. Now he's got Victor Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner. I think they're a little better. And that's scary if you're a Western Conference team or any team as well. So they did really, really nice. Here in LA, I turned off my mentions on social media, Jason, because most people are not happy with, the two ads of the defenseman and one of your guys, Warren Fogle. I think will be a really nice fit. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see. But back to Tampa for a second. I don't like the way that ended. I really don't like the way that ended with Stamkos. Because go look on Cap Friendly or Puckpedia and look at all the guys that have contracts into the next decade. Yeah. Brandon Hagel, Chernak, Sergachev was extended beforehand. Everybody got taken care of except for that one guy. And you can't tell me, Jason, that I know, look, Kucherov can make magic for anyone, but I know the rap about 5-on-5 with Stamkos, but he had 40 goals. I mean, how many is Jake going to get even playing with Kucherov? 42, 43 at a higher AAV? Look, I know that Stamkos isn't really truly owed everything. He came in, he did the job, he got paid, but we need some transparency here. Like, why the greatest player in franchise history, the guy who wears the C on his jersey, not for just captain, for championship, we need a better explanation of why it just didn't work any, or they just want to change. That's not good enough for me.
Yeah. No, I would agree with you. I thought and I appreciate the honesty from Stamkos. He's disappointed. He wanted to be there. He's moved on now. I'm sure, man, that first game and when Nashville goes to Tampa Bay, a lot of people will be watching. He'll be fired up. And sometimes you got to be cutthroat. I think in the league, you're right. It's a little odd that he was the guy. Like, I wonder, why they decided that he was the one because they acquired Ryan McDonough I don't think they had to do that, right? Like that's that was the one for me. But I guess they did McDonough because they want to move Sergachev. Like there's not many teams that move out a Sergachev and a Stamkos in one offseason.
And look, Nick Paul has a contract until 2030. So like, why not just because, look, if it was just a one-off and they didn't take care of the people and they shuttled people in and out, but you look at the strategy of them long-term, you're telling me he's not a core player still? Yeah. It's hard to fathom.
Yeah, that's fair. TR?
Dennis, as far as the Kings, do they need any? They're probably not done. What else do they need, you think?
They need to give Quentin Byfield an extension. That's the next big move. And they have to also sign Jordan Spence. The question is, are they going to go long-term with Quentin, or is he going to be smart and probably take a bridge deal for 2 or 3 years? They could fit another play in, Terry, but I think they're done. I think that, when you look at the top 6, you're probably going to have, Fogle with Byfield and maybe Fiala, and you're going to have Laferriere, who's a rookie, up with Quentin, up with Kopitar and Kempe. So there's a lot of question marks here. There really are. Like, is that going to work? It's going to be a different system. I know everybody, including Edmonton, loves when they play the 1-3-1. Well, they're not going to play the 1-3-1 next year. So look, and what Fogle does, he gives them more speed. Yeah, and and they're going to have a little bit more size on defense. So but have they stood in place? Like, Edmonton's gotten better. The one thing about it is, other than the Oilers, like, I think Vancouver got worse. Like, Vegas, I don't know what they're doing, right? And the rest of the team, Seattle was 20 points out. I know they got a couple of ads with respect to Montour, but I think the Kings could still get the 3 in the division, and make the playoffs. But the question is, can they be the upper echelon teams? Is there that much of an improvement? I think an incremental improvement, Terry. But are they going to win the division? I wouldn't put any money on it.
And do you talked about some of the teams that made big improvements? Do you see any big losers out there so far?
Well, not big losers. No, because look, if Stamkos had just walked and they didn't replace him with although I'll say one team, the Rangers. I would think more, unless they're going to trade Kakko for somebody else. Like, what did they do? Like, they're going to probably buy out Trouber. So, and I get it. You can't play an $8 million defenseman on the third pair. I understand it. You got to buy him out, maybe trade him, whatever. But they didn't really do much. They in St. Carrick, right? So they're going back to the well again, thinking they can get over. Maybe it's not Florida in their way, but maybe it's Toronto or Boston. So Rangers, they were surprisingly client. And the other loser I mentioned, Vegas. Like, again, like with what did Marchessault do when you go down there? Like, Stone got extended, Hannafin got extended, Jack got extended. That guy, a heart and soul guy from day one, and I get it, he's 33 years old, but really, you can't find a way to bring him back. You didn't know you didn't have to pay him top dollar. So, and I joked yesterday on the air, guys. I said, did Kelly McCrimmon and George McPhee know that free agency started yesterday? Like, I don't know. What are they doing? So it's going to be, and the worst thing was, Jason, was the Logan Thompson deal. Like, I don't know if people know that story. Logan Thompson was scheduled for an autograph signing at the Sphere, at 1:00, and they traded him 15 minutes beforehand. So he's sitting there signing autographs with a picture of him in the Vegas Golden Knights uniform. I love. You can't blame Vegas because it's 6 years they won a cup. Right now, they went out in the first round, and they're not better. There's a lot of question marks. So the two losers, I would say, Rangers for not doing enough, because other teams did in the East, and certainly I'm not sure what Vegas is doing. But Vegas on September 1st, they could pill a deal for Mitchell Marner. Who knows what they're going to do?
Dennis Bernstein from the fourth period joins us. Well, I think that what Vegas did was they made their moves at the trade deadline in bringing Hannafin and Hurdle. The concern I have with Vegas is their top 9 might be the slowest top 9 in the Western Conference.
Question.
Like that.
No question, Jake. And it's an older team too. Like Rancho's got some miles on. They let Martinez go, but they're gonna it's ground and pound with that team. But you're right. A team off the rush is going to probably blitz that team. It's going to be really interesting to see how they play this year. But you're absolutely right. They will be one of the slowest teams that are contending teams in the league next season.
You mentioned Mitch Marner and the Toronto Maple Leafs. They went out and they brought in their defenseman. And hey, I think Chris Tanev is great for 3 years. The last 3 are going to be dicey. He's probably put together with specialty glue and Band-Aids to see if he can make it or not. But just because he's a Warrior. But I look at Toronto and do you think it makes any sense for them to not trade Mitch Marner at this point? Like, because otherwise you're repeating the exact same thing that you've done for many years. Like, they can always score 5-on-5. except in the playoffs. Now, why is that? Because I don't think they have enough grit in their top guys in the playoffs.
I agree. And they lost Bertuzzi. But here's the thing, Jay. They can now make the excuse that their defense is better, right? OEL. Look, some nights, and you guys, games 4 and 5, OEL's their best defenseman for the Panthers. And they got a Tanev. If you buy that they're better defensively than one last ride, but if you do that, then you're losing the guy to free agency. Like, so what do you do? You're jammed up, right? So, and are you going to keep him? What are you going to pay him? $12 million? Not that guy. Like he's the one guy you can let go. So I would think right now, if I had to handicap it opening night, Mitchell Marner's in a different jersey. And I agree with you, Jason, because you're right. The core of the team can't get it done. And even if you add Tanev and OEL and you should be better defensively, like it's the big guys that have to score in the playoffs, and they don't have the track record. So I would bet right now that he's in a different uniform come opening night.
Go ahead, TR.
Vladimir Tarasenko, guys, 2 cups, just played pretty well. I know he's getting older, but have you guys heard anything? Is anybody in on him yet?
No, I think he might go back. I'll tell you this. I got off the elevator in South Florida. We were at the W, and Samsonov was walking out because they all live in South Florida. All the Russians love South Florida. So he might take a discount. I mean, he might have to take a little bit of a haircut to stay there. He did well there. I think he fit in. And I don't think anybody's going like what. Who's going to offer him like $5 per year at this point? Nobody. And take a discount. Look, if your agent, be patient, wait a week. And if nothing, go back to Zito and say, look, we want to come back on a cheaper deal short term. I think he winds up back in Florida right now.
You mentioned Marner. Which teams, like Vegas, you can never count them out because they're always willing to make moves. Are there any other teams? Like, does Utah make sense? I'm not sure it does. I know people are saying Clayton Keller. I'm like, well, I'm not sure I would do that if I was Arizona. He's way cheaper, and you know what? Probably a better goal scorer. Who do you see as potential landing spots for Marner?
Well, I hadn't until they blew up. I had Nashville. But forget that. Like, if they can pull up Nashville, forget it. There isn't a lot, Jason. And I correct me if I'm wrong. I think Marner has a no movement clause. So I don't think you want to go from Toronto to Salt Lake City. That's the other thing. He'll play. Look, but he's in a contract year, so if he went there, he'd blow up. I think the other team would be Seattle. They need scorers, so that would be a possibility as well. Maybe you send McCann back or something like that. So I think it's a team that needs offense. So I would think it's probably a Western team because if the Leafs do deal him optimally, they would want to go. They would want to go west with him as well.
And one last one, Tanner Jeannot is, he had a great year in Nashville. I said it at the time; it's probably going to be a career high for him, and people expect him to score that many goals again. We're unrealistic, but he is big and he is tough and he can skate and he is physical. And I think given the right like I look at the third line in LA and a guy who can kill penalties, he should be able to get a lot of opportunity on that team in that role.
Yeah, and he's in a contract year. The problem was he's been banged up. I think he played 56 games last year. But what was the rap on the Kings? And you saw it, Jason. They got pushed around. Yeah. So they go and get the 6'5" defenseman. They go get Tanner Jeannot. They'll be a tougher team next season. Now they're going to play some kids too. Turcotte's going to play. Akil Thomas is going to play. Maybe Sammy Fajimo. They're probably Dale Kaliev. But the rap on this team was they were easy to play against. They were a soft team. I better not say that too loud because I'm in the Kings offices right now, but they were a soft team. And but Jeannot helps them without a doubt. He's in a contract here. If he can stay healthy, he'll be a good ad. And they need that type of component. And who's a quiet guy. They've had guys here before, like Brendan Lemieux, that type of role, but didn't fit well in the locker room. This kid will. So it's a good move. Look, I get it. A lot of people said the Kings were losers in free agency because to the moves they made. Let's see what happens when we get to opening night in October.
And lastly, they brought in Burrows in that trades for Grunstrom. So Burrows and Edmondson, if those two are in, who's coming out on their blue line?
Well, I think Burrows is a depth guy. I think he's a 7-8 guy. So I think, but Andreas England, a player that the Kings fans notoriously hated, even though he served the role of being a tough guy and fighting. Edmonton would take care of, would certainly sub in for England. The other 5 defensemen, you're still probably gonna see Jordan Spence on the right side, third pair. And the key here, it's leveraged on a lot, Jason, is Brant Clark. He's going to take Matt Roy's place on the second pair with Gavrikov. He's got to produce. If you saw a couple of highlight reel goals from him last season, but he's not great defensively. He went back to the minors to work on that. But he's the key here. He's the next big thing in Los Angeles. He's the guy that they really need to come through because Matt Roy is a solid defenseman, got paid in Washington. They weren't going to pay that price in LA, but it just opened the door for for Clark, but that's a young right side after Drew Doughty. You've got Clark and you've got Spence, so we'll see how that works come next season.
Dennis, we really appreciate you, as all of our texters say, joining us from heaven today. So so that is fantastic, buddy. I love it. It's awesome to chat with you for sure, and we'll chat with you again soon this summer.
AJ, I just want to say, being in Edmonton for the Cup final, what a major experience. And you know how much I love Edmonton and the people up there and the fans. I just had the wonderful time. You guys came up 2 goals short, but I love being up there. It was a memorable time being at the Cup final with everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Dennis. Always good to see you, man.
Cheers.
There you go. That's Dennis Bernstein. He is a beauty of a guy. His background is unreal. Oh, yeah, people listening on radio is why it's all white. He's wearing a white shirt. He's got gray hair.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, it was one of those. He kind of reminds me of remember when Chubbs was in heaven? Now obviously Chubbs is black, so it's a little bit different. But consider, you know how you have the white clouds and it's all white behind him. That was what Dennis was right there. He reminded us.
I was gonna say he looked angelic, and it's what the white shirt on his head and his background. Yeah, that was quite something.
The Kings got bigger, but oof. Like, I will say this, the Kings in Vegas, like, they're going to pound the hell out of each other in those games when they play. I agree with them. I think Vancouver, you know, they lose Lindholm. And I know he wasn't great in the regular season for them, but he played pretty well in the postseason. I don't think they've replaced him. Zadorov is, he had a string of scoring goals. Now maybe, you know, and he scored a lot of them from that same sharp angle shot that I think is working, right? Goalies go down. But we'll see if that continues for him. I don't know if that's as massive of a blow as some people think. They didn't really add any puck mover on their bottom 4 on their back end. So that's maybe a concern. Like, they think they'll still be good. They obviously didn't have Demko in the playoffs, which would change things a lot. But I really think right now today, TR, the Pacific Division is Edmonton's to lose in the regular season.
For sure, I think so too. I think now there's a lot, obviously, a lot of empty space between now and the start of the season. But I agree with you. As far as Zadorov, honestly, I'm surprised to see him leave. But I know what you mean. Regular season, I don't. But it seemed like I like that guy for the playoffs. I mean, it seemed to me he stepped it up a little bit. I think they're going to lose. And Lindholm, I know. Most of the season and Vancouver's success, he wasn't around for it. And when he went there, he played a bit lackluster the first few games, at least in the eyes of the public. But I think that's a major loss. I think he's a great player. They lost a couple of great players, in my opinion. You're right with the Kings and and Vegas. These guys are going to pound each other, right? But just because they play each other so much and they're built similar. And I just don't think they have the skill on top of that. You know, the Oilers just made the Stanley Cup final, came 1 goal away from winning. And I think they got better. And at least amongst those teams, I don't even think it's an argument. Even if you're a fan of either of the other teams, you'd have to think Edmonton's winning so far.
Yeah, 2 signings just coming down. The Dallas Stars have signed Colin Blackwell to a 1-year, $775K deal. And the Florida Panthers have signed Mackenzie Entwistle but his is a 2-way deal, so debatable if he'll be in the show next year or not. When we come back, the Oilers, we haven't even really talked about the draft and how the Oilers surprised a lot of people and moved in to the first round, the final pick of the first round, and they traded away their first round selection next year for Mr. O'Reilly. We will talk about that move and a guy who's going to give us the breakdown on what Oiler fans should expect. Now, it's a few years away, but Sam O'Reilly is a young player who really took off in the second half of this season. Why are the Oilers so high on him? Why should you be excited? Find out next on the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Legacy Heating and Cooling is your #1
Buchnevich, a 6-year extension in St. Louis with an AAV of $8 million. So good signing for Buchnevich. I like him as a player. Good for him. Good for the Blues. So there you have it. Now, let's get to the oil report brought to you by VolvoCarsEdmonton.com, Canada's #1 Volvo dealership, 13-time award winner in excellence in sales and service. You want a great vehicle and you get better service. That's VolvoCarsEdmonton.com. And the Edmonton Oilers, there was lots of talk, of course, about the NHL entry draft, the free agency yesterday. It was huge for the Oilers, right? They got some pretty good players. But on Friday, the Edmonton Oilers surprised a few people because they didn't have a first-round pick. The second round they had was 64th, which usually isn't enough to move up into the first round. But they made a trade on draft day, and they traded their 2025 first-round selection. So they were able to get Philly's pick, which was 32nd, and they took Sam O'Reilly from the London Knights. To discuss that move, a guy who probably knows him better than most, sees him every game, the voice of the London Knights, Mike Stubbs, joins us. Mike, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Hey, great, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I appreciate it. You're on with Terry Ryan as well. So Sam O'Reilly, you know what? Just turned 18 in March, so it was his 17-year-old year. He scores 20 goals, 56 points, added 12 points in 16 playoff game on a pretty deep London Knights team. Of course, the OHL champion, so it's hard as a 17-year-old to get a lot of ice time there. But what did you see as the biggest improvement in his game in the second half of the season?
You know what? It is anything but points. And here's the thing. With Sam O'Reilly, guys, you've seen what happens in hockey. You get to a team, you find yourself on a depth chart, and you're not at the top. You're not on the power play. And he's somebody who, at 16 years old, went and played Junior B and absolutely excelled.
Yep.
Coming in, he was part of a pretty deep roster. And so what did Sam O'Reilly do? He found other parts of his game, found other ways to impact the game, became a tremendous penalty killer. And then think about this. In junior hockey, you've got players between the ages of 16 and 20 years old. So if you're 17, you're a pretty young guy on the team.
Yeah.
Who was taking the biggest face-offs of the year in the last games that the London Knights played? That'd be Sam O'Reilly, because that was a part of his game he improved. And Sam O'Reilly along the wall, I really believe this guy's going to play in the NHL. I really, really do. I think he's going to have a long career, and I think Edmonton fans are going to love him because he wins board battles most of the time. It's amazing.
And now the offense is something that you're probably going to see because, you know, you look at it in London and that's kind of how it is in that organization, you know, like Easton Cowan, now a little bit different of a player, maybe a little smaller. I'm not sure he has the board battle prowess and definitely not a center. But if you look at his year last year when he got drafted and then look at the jump he took in offense from he had 53 points up to 96. Do you see O'Reilly getting as much opportunity offensively this coming year as Easton Cowan did last year?
I think he will. I think you will see him on the power play. And I think you'll see him get a shot at being that net front presence on the power play. He's somebody who also works very hard at his game, as all prospects do these days. And the number of times you see him tipping pucks at the end of practice, he's all over that. And so Sam O'Reilly is somebody who definitely is going to get more of that offensive opportunity in the coming year. And so if he can add that to all the other elements we were just talking about, you've got a guy who is worthy of that first-round pick that Edmonton traded up to get.
Mike, what can you tell us about Connor Clattenburg? I noticed he came into the league as a rookie in the OHL and had 115 penalty minutes. Now, I know that doesn't mean much anymore, but to me it shows a guy comes in and he's very determined. He had a better offensive year this year, and I think the guy's underrated. What do you think?
Yeah, he started out with the Sioux Greyhounds and then was traded to Flint, and is somebody who does have that element to his game. Flint's got a couple of players who will make you know that they're on the ice, if you know what I mean. And Connor Clattenburg is one of them. And he was really on a high trajectory as far as improvement goes this year, where he was one of the best players that Flint had in their first round playoff series. And he did it because you've got that work. And there seemed to be this growth spurt at some point along the way where he wasn't small coming in, but all of a sudden in junior hockey, sometimes you'll see a guy, it's almost like they're wearing too big a suit at first, and then all of a sudden, poof, they fill out into that suit. He filled out into that, and so he was able to use his physicality. So, yeah, you're getting a guy with good touch around the net, willing to go to the net, and a guy who's going to be physical as well.
Go ahead.
Looking at some of the other guys, do you expect like Barkey to come back? What about Gazazov? Are those guys moving on? What's your expectation on where, like, who's going to come out to move up O'Reilly and other guys more opportunities?
Well, I mean, there's going to be a lot of decisions, and the London Knights of all organizations are going to be watching NHL training camps really closely because you do have Easton Cowan. Does he make the Maple Leafs roster? Oliver Bonk and Denver Barkey in Philadelphia. You can look and say, is Oliver Bonk right now better than somebody who's currently in the Flyers' top six? You can probably make that argument. And so there will be things like that go on. Now, Oliver Bonk's a defenseman, but you will see players maybe getting a long look. The other aspect is the Knights are losing some players as overagers who did play in those top six forward spots. And so they got some of those minutes. So just by automatic graduation, you do see Sam getting up into those positions. And I mean, he was playing some second line minutes at the Memorial Cup. And he was somebody who at times you'd look and go, you know who the best player is on the ice right now? It's Sam O'Reilly. It wasn't all the time, but he would have those moments where his game would rise. And he absolutely makes things happen. It's something that you hear from Dale Hunter. It's something that he preaches as a head coach. You don't have to be scoring goals. You don't have to be setting up plays. Be doing something. And Sam O'Reilly at the end of a game probably has a checklist that is as long as anybody's for things he has done in the game and the variety of different things that he's done in the game. And then Will Nickel is another guy who was picked up by the Oilers in the 7th round, and he spent this year with the London Knights. And you look at what he was able to do, same sort of thing. He came out of Junior B, came into the OHL as a 17-year-old, and he's somebody that didn't really have space for a lot of minutes. He was playing a lot of fourth line. So what does Will do? He becomes the most positive person on that bench, where he was dressing for games, wouldn't get a lot of minutes, but you never saw his head hang. And players would always say, hey, the guy who gets us going when maybe, you're down 2-1 in a game or things are lagging a little bit or the puck's not going in, it's Will Nickel. And then as the season went along, he started to earn that opportunity and was a part of some big-time minutes and big-time plays in key moments. There was a double overtime goal that he had a key part in the OHL Championship Series. So that big stage, not afraid of it, and absolutely finds ways to impact the game.
One last one for you. When you look around, the OHL and everything that's going on in that league and junior hockey overall, Mike, where do you feel that the state of the OHL is just competitive wise? Is that a good place, or is there still a lot of haves and have-nots?
There's a lot of conversation going on and will be going on. I think it's a great place because of the way it does mimic the NHL style, and I think the coaching that you get is, whether it be the WHL, the OHL, the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, the coaching is truly elite. It really is. And so you're really mimicking that style that you're going to need to move up the ranks, either to an American Hockey League team or to eventually the National Hockey League. And you have that going. Now, the thing that all junior teams are going to be contending with is, how do you work against name, image, and likeness in the NCAA? And how does that impact the talent pool in years to come? Because OHL teams don't have those boosters who can say, here's the sum of money that we can provide for you for the next year or two. It just doesn't work that way. And so that could be something to watch at the major junior level in the years to come, in terms of how many players do report to the junior teams to keep that talent pool as high as it is.
Mike, great stuff, man. We really appreciate the rundown. We look forward to meeting O'Reilly when he comes in here to the Oilers. The rookie camp isn't on ice. It's just going to be more of a learning one on nutrition and health and money management and lots of other things. But we'll have a chance to talk to him then. Appreciate your time as always.
Great stuff, Terry. Jason, great to speak with you.
That is Mike Stubbs. Good rundown on the London Knights. And TR, you played in junior, and you come in as a 17-year-old on it. and I thought Rick Tracy, when we had him on the show on Friday, and I'm not sure if you heard the interview or not, but he did a really good job of explaining how important environment is when he's evaluating players. Because if you look at a guy like Sam O'Reilly, and people who will just look at his point totals and say, well, geez, why are you drafting him? He had 20 goals and 56 points, which isn't bad. But when you consider not a lot of power play time, right? He's on the penalty kill, he's taking key face-offs, that it's more about points, because this is a guy who, if given more opportunity, will likely get you 80 points next year in the Ontario Hockey League. But, to be an NHLer, he's probably going to have to be really good, and maybe he becomes a third-line center, because if he's a third-line center, which is a very important position on your team down the road, then that's a really good pick.
Yeah, when it comes to points, if you can tell if someone can put the puck in the net. I mean, if you get 20 points, 100. Again, I went one pick behind Shane Doan. I had 20 more points. I went 3 picks ahead of Jerome McGinley. I had 40 more points than him. It's just like, and again, I'm not saying it's just like, I know why, because on my team, we went with me and Lanks played like every second shift. We played Damon Lanka. We played an awful lot. We were our go-to guys, and we were in our draft year. And Doan and Iginla were buried behind a Memorial Cup winning juggernaut of a team behind Nat Dominicelli and Darcy Tucker and Ashley Bookberger. And, that's just the way it works. And junior especially, you got 5 years. And being a 16-year-old to a 20-year-old, man, there's so much of a difference. And not only your personal stats, the people that you're playing against. So for me, you can tell someone gets a decent amount of points depending on what team they're on. You want to see the other intangibles. What can they do? But that's why I like this Connor Clattenburg guy when I looked into it. He's responsible already. People that score, like for a guy like me coming into the league, you have to adapt the other way. You're probably not going to get 50 goals in the NHL. So but if you come into junior already knowing that, okay, I got, if Clattenburg came into his own as a scorer, but he already had that two-way presence about him. I really think that means a lot. You're talking about, oh God, there's a prospect with the Oilers. I'm forgetting his Lavoie. Is it Lavoie?
Yeah,
Lavoie.
Raphael Lavoie. Yeah,
Raphael Lavoie. So the same thing. If he wants to make the NHL, he's going to have to really buckle down and go, okay, I'm going to kill penalties. I'm going to finish every hit. I'm not going to be the scorer that I was as a kid and coming up every year in junior. It's just something that a lot of players have to accept when they get picked high. But if you already have that innate ability to play two ways and to buckle down, it's a real advantage coming into pro hockey.
Yeah. TR, we'll let you out earlier because I know you got a big social engagement. Now, don't influence those young kids, down the wrong path, okay? So put your tooth in, have a good speech. Don't, and most importantly today, because your daughter's there, and this might be the most stressful speech you have to give.
Yeah, you're right. It goes all over. On Thursday, I'm going to Prince George. I'm doing a thing for the Cougars alumni, and it's it'll be like it'll be an adult event that we're raising money for. It'll be totally different. You never know what you're going to get. Today is going to be based around the Growlers game, sticking with it, focus, determination, positive attitude. That's where I'm going with this one. But yeah, you never really know. And anytime, for those that don't know, it's my daughter's soccer event. So she's been through it before, but there's always a level of an extra level of nervous energy when it comes to family.
Yeah, for sure. Well, have a good one, buddy. We'll chat with you later this week.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Connor. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Edmonton. And I'll see you guys again in just a couple of days.
There you go. That's Terry Ryan, abbreviated edition of the show today. Hey, boys, I love your opening guests. Always like it when I learn stuff listening to your show. Well, appreciate that, Dan. Muzz types in. 2 great guests, boys. Good start. Well, hey, you know what? We had a day off, so we're rested. We come in. Don't expect that the rest of the week. Actually, you know what? We got some really good guests lined up this week. I think you're well, we do every week, but I think there's a few this week just with some timing and some other things. We have Jeff Skinner coming up today at 5:20. We'll have a guest tomorrow. I think you're very going to much like if you. I'm a big fan of the path, the journey, and the story. And so there's my teaser for tomorrow's guest for Who Is It Wednesday. I think you'll like it. Let's get to the con man and a sports 1440 update brought to you by High Street Insurance, driven by people, not products. They've taken care of people in Edmonton for over 10 years. And you know what? They started here, they're growing, they're expanding, but they always know where home is. Head office is right here in Edmonton, the city of champions. That is highstreetinsurance.com.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
It's another busy day in the NHL. The St. Louis Blues signing forward Pavel Buchnevich to a 6-year, $48 million contract. That's an AAV of $8 million per season. Buchnevich, 29 years old, had 27 goals and 63 points in 80 games last season. The Blues also acquired winger Matthew Joseph and a 2025 third-round pick from Ottawa, also grabbing Radek Paksa from the Dallas Stars. St. Louis sending future considerations to both Ottawa and Dallas in those deals. The Tampa Bay Lightning signed defenseman Victor Hedman to a 4-year, $32 million contract extension. Penguins bringing in defenseman Sebastian Aho to a 2-year, $1.55 million contract. The Ducks trading for Brian Dumoulin from the Kraken in exchange for a 2026 fourth-round selection. He also had Florida bringing in Mackenzie Entwistle on a 1-year deal, and the Dallas Stars signing Colin Blackwell to a 1-year contract. In the association, Kemba Walker, a champion at UConn and 4-time All-Star in the league, announced his retirement on social media. He spent the last couple seasons playing with the Mavericks and then spent time playing with AS Monaco in the Euro League. Major League Baseball today, the Blue Jays will host the Houston Astros. First pitch set for 5:07. Also, Reds take on the Yankees. Nationals host the Mets. Tigers in Minnesota. Royals up against the Rays. The Brewers in Colorado. And the Mariners take on the Baltimore Orioles. Euro 2024 today. Netherlands with a big 3-0 victory over Romania. And Turkey getting past Austria 2-1. Copa tonight. Brazil takes on Colombia at 7. Also, Costa Rica up against Paraguay from Q2 Stadium in Austin, Texas. In the WNBA, 4 games on the schedule. Liberty host the Lynx at 5. Also, Sky head to Georgia, taking on the Dream. You got the Aces and the Fever, and the Mystics in LA to take on the 4-14 Sparks. Coming up in hour 2 of the Jason Gregor Show, we will be joined by Dave McCarthy of Sirius XM NHL to recap a busy weekend in the league. Also, Trent Huger will join us to talk about Hockey Heroes Golf Tournament coming up later on in the summer. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440.
O'clock. Welcome back. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. The Gregor Show is always presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website where 100% of the revenue stays right here in the lovely province of Alberta. Alberta.ca. And also, it's Tuesday, so you know what that means. Lotto Max, boys and girls. You feel lucky? You're probably feeling lucky after all the order signing. Well, how about 33 million lucky? Maybe you're thinking Skinner plus Henrique, 3-3. Get it at PlayAlberta.ca. We got a lot of texts. 833-401-1440. 833-401-1440 in our inbox. Lots to get to. Hey, Jason, do you care to comment on Frank Saravalli's report that the orders are linked to Bowman? What are your thoughts on that from PP? It's a good question. I have some thoughts on it. And I think it's one where you have to have rational and take a step back and look at the whole situation. So, Bowman, is he remorseful? I don't doubt that for a second. Maybe he didn't understand the depth of the situation at the time. I've read, I've heard interviews. You've seen, people talk about how, things were done that obviously, Quenneville was kind of pardoned, really, in a sense. So, but because Quenneville, I don't think had as much to do with it as the management. When it's like anything, as it goes up higher, the people at the top have the most responsibility, right? That's how it goes, right? And so whether you like it or not, there's different rules for certain people. I've said this many times. I know because of my job in the public eye, if I ever gotten impaired, job done. Now, when I worked in the oil field, if I got impaired, guess what? I would lose my inability maybe to drive my vehicle, but I could still have a job, right? And I'm fine with that. There's different responsibilities. You're the GM of an NHL organization. Guess what? You're the one at the top. So when Kyle Beach comes to you, and maybe they didn't handle that part well enough, but it was the fact that they gave, Brad Aldrich, who hasn't even been charged. We can get into a whole other story and what's wrong with our whole society when it comes to sexual abuse. But anyway, I look at this from an Oiler perspective. So Frank said that Bowman supposedly was one of the guys they were considering last year at this time, but he couldn't get reinstated. Okay, so if he was one of the guys in competition with Jeff Jackson, and Jeff Jackson just had the free agency along with Bill Scott and Brad Holland, because it's not a one-man job. I want to make that abundant. It's not just one guy in there making all the calls and everybody else sits on their hands, right? Like it's a complete team, right? They look at who they want, right? They react quickly in some cases, like the Skinner buyout. Other things are like, hey, how can we convince guys to stay here? All that stuff, right? It's not just one guy doing all the calls. So I look and say, yeah, Stan Bowman, he had a pretty good career, but why does Edmonton need him now? That would be my main question. Maybe he's done his penance and he's ready for another opportunity. Maybe. I don't know. I can't sit. Someone can tell you that, oh, yeah, maybe you sat in on a course, right, to learn about it. Does that mean, though, that you've really learned? I don't know. And does it change the life path of the young boy? Like some things, I'm not sure. He deserves a second chance to live and work, but maybe not the honor of doing it at the NHL level. Is that fair? There's lots of jobs you can do. Some jobs are just, they're very specialized. There's very few people that can do it. So why would Edmonton at this point say, well, of all the people available for the job, he's so much more qualified that we're willing to tell all of our fans who have been sexually abused that, well, he deserves a second chance. And oh, by the way, the percentage of those fans who have been sexually abused is grossly higher than anybody wants to imagine. There's lots of people who live in silence. who have been survivors of sexual abuse. You all know the numbers. 1 in 3 girls, 1 in 6 boys. Right? It's an awful statistic. So someone explain to me why Bowman would get to take over a team that went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, who has the world's best player, who has another top 5 player in the world, who has, Evan Bouchard and Zach Hyman and lots of other good people and really good players. And the management has built this up. Are you telling me that there's no other candidate that's in the same stratosphere as Stan Bowman that you would have to hire him and forego everything that happened? If someone else wants to do it, that's their decision. If I'm running the Edmonton Oilers, I would say thanks, no thanks. I don't need it. Someone explain to me what Bowman is going to bring that is so clearly better than anyone else. Honestly. Right now, people are going to say, yeah, he won a cup. Sure, he won a cup, but timing's a big deal. Dale Talon put a lot of those pieces in place. And then Bowman came along at right time, and he still made some good moves, don't get me wrong. But no one, if the Oilers win a Stanley Cup next year, Peter Chiarelli was overseeing the ones when they drafted Bouchard, and Stuart Skinner, 2 pretty big parts of the team, unless something changes. Also McDavid, but no offense, anybody would have drafted McDavid. I don't care who the GM was. The GM could have been Jason Gregor, Connor Halley, Propane, Pete, could have been anybody, and they would have taken Connor McDavid. Like, I'm sorry, that doesn't take a lot of skill to draft him number 1. That was Captain Obvious pick. But hey, Bouchard, really good pick. Skinner, really good pick. Ryan McLeod's been a really good 3rd rounder, so I'll give him credit for that. Then Ken Holland, he signed Hyman, right? He's brought in Kulak. He's lots of guys that they signed. Go down the list of players they brought in. Right now, the new GM would come in, and he might inherit a team that he only has to make 1 acquisition at the deadline. And he'll be the GM who won the cup, but not really the one who put them over the top. Okay? Ken Holland's trade of Ekholm. Look how massive that was for the organization. Right? So there's different people to have it win. So honestly, someone can tell me what Stan Bowman does that is so incredible that there's no one else that you could get to do the job. He might be 1% better, maybe, but nothing else. So why would you do it? Right? Why not take a stand? Because I'm telling you, you know how many of our listeners have been survivors of sexual abuse? And I know we have a pretty popular show. The Oilers are probably a little bit more popular than us. Well, we know where we are in the pecking order, and I'm fine with that. And so they have more fans, so they'll have more survivors of sexual abuse. Why would you do it? If anybody can answer that, that's what I want to know. And I'll tell you, when I will gladly ask that question to Jeff, and I would love to ask him before, because once you hire him, you can ask a question, they'll give you some politically BS answer, but it doesn't change anything. And the point I ask is, why? Why is it worth it? Can you think of one answer, Connor Halley? And I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't expect you to answer the question, but I don't see the need for the Edmonton Oilers to do this.
I'm with you, Gregor. I mean, this is to work in the NHL is a privilege. To be a general manager is a privilege. You can lose that privilege. Like, we had people texting in earlier on during Fantasy Frenzy saying, and I kind of echoed your thoughts, maybe not so elegantly, but people saying, well, you don't believe in reform. I believe in reform, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that you get a chance to do this job where you're going to go back and you're going to be in charge of, 18, 19-year-old kids that get drafted into your organization. Like, to me, the trust is gone. I don't trust him to make the right decision here. He can say he's learned from it and all of that. What did he go through? He was taken away from hockey for a little while. He still probably lived in a mansion, lived a great life, could travel to whatever he wanted. He just couldn't work in the hockey industry. I think he's going to get a job again, Gregor. I do. But why? I have no good reason to tell you why, especially this Edmonton Oilers team that just had one of the best days in free agency that I've ever seen them have with Jeff Jackson and co.
No.
There's just no rush to do it.
No, like I said, there's lots of other jobs you can have in the world. And you know what? And lots of them are very good jobs. But I don't feel, when you consider a team that's a legit cup contender, who went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, who has Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, Evan Bouchard, and Zach Hyman, to go down the list. They just had a really good day in free agency. Why? For what possible gain are you getting that he's going to bring that no one else can do in that job? That's the question. And that's the question, Jeff Jackson is the CEO of hockey operations. He needs to ask himself that. Right? Because if you can get an answer, great. I just don't think you can. So I would politely just move on. I don't see any reason to do it. So, McGregor, it's Simone Asinine thing. It's also the team that never denounced Nicholson after the Hockey Canada stuff. Well, keep in mind, Bob Nicholson was with the Oilers. Okay, the case that's going on right now, Bob Nicholson was with Edmonton. Okay, the other hearsay stuff, you can't. That's irrelevant. Okay, Bob Nicholson was with the Oilers when the Formenton and Hart and all that stuff went down. Wasn't a part of it. Right? So, just wasn't. Very different things. Hey guys, it's a horrible PR move, not even a great hockey move. What's the point? Well, exactly. I don't see it. Right? Like I said, so Stan Bowman had a team that won, and then now what's happened to them? Right? What's happened to them? Yeah, they won and completely cratered. Got lucky in the Bedard lottery. So I don't see why anybody would want to do it. Like, look at Peter Chiarelli. Peter Chiarelli won a cup. And then what's the worst thing Peter Chiarelli did? He made some bad trades. Think about that. He made some horrific trades. But he didn't hurt any human beings. Right now, he might have frustrated lots of Oilers fans. Fair. But we can't compare that to what happened in the Chicago organization. And why is he not getting a job? Because we don't think he's good at it. For a variety of reasons. So why can't you say, well, we don't think it's not worth it? Because what he did was a pretty bad thing to do as a human being. We can say that, we erred, but there's different levels of error. Okay? You can make a mistake and yell at your kid. You can make a mistake and hit your kid. Pretty different things. Correct? So you can make a bad hockey trade, or you can make a bad decision, give a guy a glowing review, and then he goes somewhere else and assaults a young kid. Which one do you think has more long-term pain? Not even close. Quick break. We'll come back. It is the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. Dave McCarthy will join us. We got a great fun story coming up at 3:40. Also, Spec, Struds, Jeff Skinner, and more on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Still here. If you
Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation YouTube and Facebook. As always, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. It's time now to get to, we wrap up we'll talk a little free agent frenzy brought to you by Action Electrical, where you can take savings all the time if you're thinking about it, because I know you've been on the fence and you're like, should I do it? Should I not? Well, trust me, you should do it. And that is get solar on your home or on your commercial building, and it's going to save you some money. Action Electrical can help you do it. ActionElectrical.net. Our regular Tuesday guest on the show from Sirius XM, host of the Sunday brunch and does ice caps and fills in work days. He's got a very tough schedule because he's working all different times. Dave McCarthy from Sirius XM joins us. Davey, how you doing?
I feel like I owe you for that incredible introduction. I really don't think my life is that hard, but if you'd like to convey it that way, I'm not going to argue with you.
Well, when I look at your backyard right now, it definitely doesn't look that difficult.
Right,
you're out there. It's the flowers are growing. The other you're real green thumb. I saw Dave. He had a video of him, and he has his how would I call it, the sprinkler shower head, and he's got it on, so it's not going to damage the flowers. I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing. So if I had to ask you, what do you think you're more knowledgeable in, flowers or hockey?
Well, one I get paid for, the other is just my my hobby, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, it's true. I do know what I'm doing back here in the yard. It is amazing. You go around, you talk to my buddies, whatever it is. They are clueless what in their yard. I was at my buddy's the other day. I'm not going to name him because I don't want to put him. He's a character on the show, but I don't want to name him. And I'm just like, I don't know if I do it. Yeah, I don't know if I do it that way. Yeah, you got to listen to what I'm talking about because I do know what I'm doing.
All right. I like which GMs and management teams did you think showed they knew what they were doing in free agency spending?
I love the work that Tom Fitzgerald got done in New Jersey this week. Or let's stretch it back to a couple weeks. Getting Jacob Markstrom. What was their big issue last year was that they couldn't keep the puck out of their net. And I know you and I have talked about this in the past about the Devils in recent years. Too young, too small on the back end. So I think they realized, one, they got to keep the puck out of the net more often. They couldn't get a stop from anybody. So Jacob Markstrom will come in. He's dramatically better than anybody they had in recent years. And then they went out and they got a couple of guys who defensively are much better than what they had in Brett Pesce, who I think is criminally underrated for just how sound he is. They got him in on a good number. And Brendan Dillon, who is a mean, nasty, big piece of business, can kill some penalties. So you mix those two guys into a blue line that, let's call Dougie Hamilton almost an acquisition as well, because he wasn't part of the program last year. Yeah. And he's another real quality guy. So you're bringing in three guys next year to mix in with Siegenthaler and Luke Hughes and Simon Nemec. It's a pretty good looking back end in front of a goalie who, when his game is where it needs to be, and so long as there's structure in front of him, I think it will be. It's a pretty good improvement from what they had a year ago. And then you just hope that guys like Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier and Andre Palat, who really battled through injuries this past year as well, can stay healthy. They do that. I really like New Jersey to get into a top 3 spot in the Metro Division. I think the Rangers are going to be there. I think Washington actually got sneaky better too. I don't know if it's sustainable, but they're looking at year to year right now and trying to cobble it together while Ovechkin's still in the mix. I think they might have got sneaky better. I've got to assess Carolina a little bit more deeply, but I am concerned that they lost a lot of personnel. Brett Pesce, Brady Shea, 2 real quality defensemen, Teuvo Teravainen, who played a lot of important minutes up front. I wonder maybe if they take a bit of a step back. I think New Jersey's put themselves in a real good spot to leapfrog a number of teams and get a top 3 spot in that Metro.
I really like the Goss's bear to Carolina. Actually, I think he's going to work there very well. They move the puck. We'll see what the numbers come in for Seth Jarvis. There's people talking about they were going to trade Marty Nakes, and I don't see how they can do that now. They lost a lot of their other guys, so I think he'll come back. I'm kind of curious what his number is going to be. I saw some people suggesting $8 million, and I'm kind of like, why?
I don't know about that.
And I don't really understand. Like, I understand if he wants it. I get every player wants it, but the guy's had one plus 53-point season of his career. One.
I would be shocked if he gets that in Carolina, just in knowing the way they do business, which generally speaking is coming nowhere near overpaying anybody, no matter who you are. If you want a lot of money and they don't feel you're worth it, you get moved along in Carolina and almost cold-heartedly. So I think we have to wait on Carolina. I think, as you said, there's more things that are going to get done. But look, I mean, I think Gosssphere is fine. Sure, he'll help on the power play and that, but I don't like him at even strength. I don't think he's a guy that really helps you in that regard. You have to put him in a position to succeed, limit his minutes. Sean Walker's a guy that can help on their power play as well, and that, but I don't think he's an adequate replacement defensively for what they lose in Brett Pesce. So yeah, I'm still waiting to see what Carolina's going to do, because I don't think they're done. But right now, I don't think they've gotten any better this offseason.
Dave McCarthy from SiriusXM joins us. Davey, out in the West, you look in the Pacific Division, Edmonton, who went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. I think they're better. Specifically, they got two guys to play with Draisaitl. Their head coach basically said in the Stanley Cup Final, Leon Draisaitl, a superstar, doesn't really play with a lot of other, skilled offensive guys. And I don't think that was a knock. I think it was just kind of the truth, right? And so you bring in Jeff Skinner, you bring in Arvidsson. Skinner is obviously highly motivated. He's never played in the playoffs. He's played 1,006 games. He's going to join us in about 2 hours' time here to talk about coming to Edmonton. And then you bring in Arvidsson. They bring back their whole Henrique Brown and Janmark True, I thought some people thought wasn't possible. Now, they are over the cap right now. And with Jeff Jackson mentioning the word hit for the first time with Evander Kane, it really got my spidey sense tingling that Kane, if that requires surgery, he's definitely going to be starting on LTIR.
Oh, without question. Without question, he will be. So, he wasn't healthy last year during the playoffs, which caused Draisaitl a bit of a problem because he was undermanned, as you said, on his line. I like Victor Arvidsson a lot. I think he's a really good player when he's healthy. If he can stay healthy, I think that's an upgrade on, say Warren Fogle, right? And Jeff Skinner is a guy that has never really been in a good position in his career to have a ton of success, either individually or from a team standpoint. But he's managed to put up decent numbers. Like, I think he had 24 goals last year, if I'm not mistaken, in whatever it was, like 70 plus games. I think he had 46, 47 points. Wait till you put him on a line with a guy that can really play and distribute the puck. Like, Leon Draisaitl has won player polls as the best passer in the game, and that's playing on the same team as the guy that other people think is the best passer in the game, Connor McDavid. So Draisaitl can distribute the puck. I think Jeff Skinner is really going to be in a good position to succeed. So brilliant upgrades, really. You look at what they've got now with Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, Hyman, call it Arvidsson, Draisaitl, and Skinner. You've got the Janmark line with Henrique and Brown, Corey Perry's back. That's a pretty good, solid top 12 guys, right? So I think they've done well there. Their back end is pretty good. I think we saw Philip Broberg in the playoffs being in a position where he is going to take a step forward next year once he gets more consistent minutes. He's a guy that's been sniffing around for like 2-3 years now. And I was really impressed when he got in the Cup final, what he was able to deliver. So I think there's going to be a lot of room for internal improvement there. So yeah, I like what Edmonton has done. We'll see what they do to get under the cap. If Evander Kane is the way they do it, so be it. But I think they're going to be in a really good position again next year to contend because I look at the rest of the Pacific Division. I don't know. I don't think Vegas has really gotten better, to be honest with you. I think they've gotten worse. Vancouver's lost a number of guys. LA, I don't know. San Jose, Anaheim, forget it. So like I don't really see a lot of depth there in that division. That like Calgary, no. Like Edmonton to me is the team to beat in the Pacific Division next year. And if they can finish first, they'll get a pretty good draw through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. They're going to be in good shape again next year, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really think the change to their defense, Dave, might happen at the trade deadline.
Sure.
If they're looking to alter it there, I think there's more defensemen that are going to be available then than there is right now here on July 2nd and through the summer. Now, I could be wrong. All right. We've seen some trades, but historically, it doesn't happen very often at that point. So you mentioned Vegas, Vancouver, some of the other teams, you look at Colorado, Dallas, and then Winnipeg. Winnipeg's got a lot of changes, Dave. What do you make of those 3?
Well, Winnipeg is another team that I don't think has gotten better at all. If not, they've gotten worse. I looked at their roster yesterday, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a playoff team next year, especially in that Central Division where I think Nashville's gotten better. Colorado's going to be a good team. Dallas going to be a good team. Chicago won't make the playoffs next year, I don't think, but they've brought in some bodies to help Connor Bedard out a little bit. Columbus, I still think, is a lot of work to do there. Who else am I missing in the Central Division? That's not coming to mind here. Like, it's Colorado, it's Dallas, it's Nashville to me in that division. I think Winnipeg will be battling for a wild card spot.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'm not really. Oh, St. Louis as well. They haven't really done anything, and they were kind of just okay this year. So it's funny. I don't think the West is nearly as strong as we always used to think of the West being. I think the strength lies in the East, and specifically in Atlantic Division. Now in the National Hockey League, I think the Central. I just gave you my top 3 teams. I don't think the Pacific's that strong at all. So that's why I look at Edmonton. So long as they're able to get themselves healthy again, try to get recharged after a really long run, you get a good draw. And again, I like what you pointed out. You always have to caution people because I think fans get really worked up on, July 2nd. Oh, the team isn't as good as I want it to be. Well, the team isn't your playoff team until March the 7th or whenever the deadline is next year. Edmonton's got a more than good enough team in a regular season to get off to a good start, get on a good run, like finish first in the Pacific, and then augment the team come trade deadline time. There's different levels of the season. It's can you get yourself through to the regular season in a position where you're in a good spot, then add to the team at the deadline. That's where I see Edmonton right now. And like I said, if they finish first, they're going to get a really, really good draw through the first 2 rounds and be right there again next year.
Dave McCarthy from SiriusXM joins us. Dave, I see a lot of people are like, oh my God, what a team-friendly deal for Sam Reinhart. I'm sorry, I can't buy it. It's it was the highest cap hit outside of Gensel. It's 8.625 as a free agent. And he had an unreal year last year, Dave. No question about it. But I look at his career numbers. So he's 8.6 now. The odds that he has a 24.5 shooting percentage again next year, 57 goals. If you look at the year before, his goals, 4 goals against, everything like that, his PDO of what it was last season at 1.25. I think it's really hard for that to say, okay, well, that's going to repeat itself. Because if it does repeat itself, then yes, it's a great value contract. But if he goes back to being just an 82-point player, which is still really good, then it's not this great team-friendly deal that everybody's claiming based off of only 1 year.
Yeah, I'm leery about it as well, just because I've never thought of Sam Reinhart as a 50 goal scorer, almost a 60 goal scorer this year. I've thought of him, generally speaking, throughout his career as a high 20s goal scorer, and that's what he's been. Right, his 2 years in Florida, he had 33, 31, but before that, he never had more than 25. And the guy is 29 right now. He's going to be, he's 28 right now. He's going to be 29 in November. So, to me, Sam Reinhart is a 30 goal kind of 70, 75 point a year guy. Can he do again what he did this year? I'm not convinced. You're right. The shooting percentage is outrageously high, and it's not likely to stay at that level again next year. I think if he can be a 30 goal, 75, 80 point guy, it's a fine contract, but it's not a steal either. Now, do the Panthers need him to be a 57 goal guy in order to win again next year? I don't think so. I think they'd be fine with 30 goals, and so long as he delivers in the playoffs. So, how much are we getting carried away about regular season success there? Maybe a little bit. As long as he's on it and fall off the map and he's still relatively productive, they'll be fine as long as he delivers in the playoffs. But I don't think you can look at it and say, oh, they're getting a 50-goal guy for 8 and change, because I would be shocked if he scores 50 again next year.
Yeah, 100%. That's my whole point. Like, people are going to look at next year at the end of the year and say, oh, Sam Reinhart, good deal at, probably fair value. But far from this, oh, my goodness, it's a savings. Because if it was a savings for Florida, then they would have signed him for $7 million, not 8.6. That's my point, because he's probably an 8.6 guy in any other market. Right? People saying you got to pay him $10 million based on what? Why? Because he had one really good year? Like with Zach, I'd ask me if Zach Hyman was a free agent this year, would he get $10 million? Probably not.
I think he'd get. Like this year, like how old is he? He's in his 30s, right?
Yeah.
So no, a term. He's 32. No, it's certainly not at long term. Zach Hyman, if he was a free agent this year, might get 5 years at 7.5, and I think you might be gulping if you sign that contract. It's not getting 10, not a chance in this world is he getting that kind of money. So, look, Sam Reinhart, if he had gone to open market, would there have been a team that have given him more? Probably, but it would have been one of those situations where you take him out of the circumstance where he was really effective in Florida, and how much does that affect his production? You go back to the position he was in Buffalo, and to me, he was kind of always one of those guys who was almost an underperformer. You signed him to 8 years at 9.5 or 10, and he's in a situation where he's not having the same kind of success based on the people who he plays with and the system that he plays within. I think that's one of those contracts you're wanting the deal back the moment the pen hits the table, to be honest with you. So I think it's a fair deal in Florida, but no, I don't think it's a dramatic savings. Absolutely not.
Not at all. Davey, have a good one. Enjoy the week. We will see what happens. And probably the big story now of the summer is, will the Leafs pull the string and trade Mitch Marner? That will be a topic for the summer for sure.
Well, I'll just say this. Part of the pitch that I heard to your boy Jeff Skinner now, who chose Edmonton, was that, hey, do you want to play with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner? So if that's part of the pitch, what does that tell you about how they're thinking about Mitch Marner moving forward? Leave that as some food for thought.
Yeah. Well, choosing McDavid or Draisaitl because you can play with both of them at different times.
Mm-hmm.
I can see why.
I probably would have chosen Edmonton too.
Yeah, they went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, so yeah. I could see why they went there. Davey, have a good one.
See you.
There you go. That's Dave McCarthy from Sirius XM. Yeah, you know what? It's like Adam Henrique. He had other suitors, and as I've said for decades on the show, when people are like, oh, no one's going to sign in Edmonton because it's north. No, some won't, and they never will, and so you don't worry about those people. But what did we always say, Connor, for a decade? When the orders are competitive, players will sign. Because even when they weren't competitive, Sekera, Lucha, for years, the orders actually had some of the bigger free agent signings. The problem was the team was never that good. Free agency is not going to make you good. It can augment you, which is what I think the orders did this year. But now that they're a competitive team, players who have options will say, you know what? I want to be here. And Adam Henrique, you know what? One of the reasons why he signed here was Hey, familiarity with the team. He also mentioned his wife had never experienced playoff hockey. And guess what? She experienced it in Edmonton. She's like, oh my God, this is unreal. She loved it. So as I've said to Edmonton all the time, when people try to tell you, and even Edmontonians, if you don't like the city, beat it. Pack your bags, get out. I have no time for people who whine about the city they live in. Now, if you want to complain about a tax thing or something, knock your socks off. But just, I don't like the city. Well, then leave. No problem with it. I'm a big believer, wherever you be proud of it. Now, if you're not from here originally and you like your hometown better, I can respect that. But don't badmouth the place where you're residing in, where you make your life. Doesn't make sense to me. The reason people didn't sign here was because the Oilers sucked for a long time. Yeah, geography isn't in their favor for some American players, but lots of Europeans. You heard Ekholm. He loves it. Arvidsson, first thing he said, man, I'm from Sweden. Eki told me he loves it. The snow, his kids love it. Right? It's all about perspective. Not everybody is going to love you. Not everybody's going to love your city. Fine. But don't pile on and agree with them. Have a backbone. Be proud of your city. But now that the Oilers are good, shocking. Players want to stay here because they're good. And they know, guess what? It's a great place to play in the playoffs. It's a great city year-round. But most importantly, in the playoffs. And the Oilers, they're not a one-hit wonder. I can't guarantee they'll win the Stanley Cup next year. But I'd bet a lot of money they're making the playoffs. And then when you get in the playoffs, they got a lot of experience. And they got the best player in the world. And they got a lot of other good players. And they just got better. And they got an owner who's willing to spend a lot of money. Because he makes a lot of money. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the summer too. Like maybe you might want to think of rewarding your loyal fans rather than gouging your loyal fans. We'll have that topic later on this summer. We'll return on the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Legacy Heating and Cooling is your
T1 Sports 1440 Orders Nation YouTube and Facebook. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you. Shane Pinto has just signed a 2-year deal with the Ottawa Senators, an AAV of 3.75. He'll make a 5 the first year, $5 million in the second season, so it comes out an average of 3.75 for him. Also, Cam Atkinson, a 1-year $900K deal with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, got a lot of text flying in, 833-401-1440. We'll get to all those a little bit later on. But first, we're going to talk a little hockey and golf combination with Trent Goudreau from Hockey Heroes. Trent, welcome to the show, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
I'm excellent. I guess, first of all, for those who don't know, give us a little bit of a background on what Hockey Heroes does.
So a few years ago, my kids were all played hockey, and various people had come to business owners throughout our community and asked just for little donations to help some kids that didn't have sports equipment and stuff like that in our association. So just taking that idea and running with it, we formed the Hockey Hero Society, and that's what we do. So we do events to raise money, and it goes to our area for any families that need sports equipment. And
is it also for some kids who otherwise just wouldn't be able to play hockey, physically?
Yes, essentially. Like there's a ton of programs out there that help with fees, like the kids sports and stuff like that. What we found that was lacking was somebody that, actually needed equipment. So shy of getting a kid some used stuff at a garage sale or something like that. When we buy the stuff for the kids, it's all, pro quality gear. We got some great partners with some manufacturers, and they come out looking sharp.
So you're teaming up with NHL alumni. It's a golf tournament, so you have a gala dinner on September 6th, and then the golf tournament is on the 7th. Obviously, it's a way for people just to have a little bit of fun. Golf, meet some NHL alumni, Terry Ryan, Walking Gage, some local guys that people know, and then obviously there'll be a few others there. I know you've had McSorley and McTavish and other guys come up for the event. Give us a little lowdown. Outside, is there anything kind of special or unique about the tournament?
Well, this year we're doing something a little bit different with it. Normally we do an alumni game where you actually get to skate, but we're changing it up a little bit this year. So we have our banquet, like you mentioned, on the 6th. So you come for that. You get a prime rib dinner, lots of auctions. Craig Ninehouse does music for us. Jim Jerome's our MC. He's a hilarious guy. I'm sure you've met Jimmy before.
Oh yeah, Mr. I like to call him Mr. Leahy sometimes. He's a classic.
He's a little offside, yeah, for sure. But yeah, you can buy a player to play on your golf team during our auctions that we have. There's live and silent auctions. We have trips. We have all kinds of stuff that are in it. And then it's just a great day on the golf course. I think we have 16 out of 18 holes are sponsored, so there's something happening just about on every hole. Whether it's having a bite to eat or playing a little game or having a cocktail, whatever, there's going to be something on just about every hole that we have. So it's going to be a great time.
How many kids do you think you're helping out now?
Well, we started a few years ago, but we've been outfitting between 10 and 20 a year so far is kind of what we've been doing. Last year was our biggest fundraiser year yet, but just the timing of it kind of, fell out of when most of the sports are happening. So we're hoping this year to really kick it off before hockey season starts and push it as many as we can possibly do.
And you do
and we're not just strictly for hockey. It's any sport.
Yeah.
In like that for whoever needs it.
And you do it for all the kids just in Whitecourt, or is it all surrounding area? How's it work?
Surrounding area. We've done kids in Marathorpe, Edson, Fox Creek, Whitecourt, of course, and then as far away as Barhead.
So if there's a family who's in need, how do they go about contacting you? Because I'm sure a lot of people are they're kind of sheepish. They don't necessarily want to, they're very prideful, which I totally understand, and they don't want to ask for help. How do you go about doing it?
Yeah, so we have a link on our website, hockeyheroesgame.com. There's an apply for assistance button on there. We have some pretty loose standards compared to like some of the bigger ones. We take a lot of people at their word. you can send us a snapshot. We ask for, there's certain criteria you have to meet to be able to apply for our program, but it is nowhere near as intrusive as a lot of them are. So we just want to make sure that the families get what they need and the kids can play.
Safe to say, Trent, you started this just because you felt like, you know what, we want to get more kids playing sports. And you know what, if somebody isn't like, completely on the down and out, that doesn't mean we can't help them.
Yep, you betcha, 100%.
Yeah. You mentioned you have Jerome and Ninehouse and Ryan and Gager. Do you have your whole roster filled out yet, or are you still looking to see?
We have 90% of our roster. So we got, of course, Terry Ryan, Joaquin Gage, Theo Peckham, Foyer Oilers, coming back over from Ontario. Matthew Barnaby is going to join us. He's a great time if anybody's never met him.
Oh yes.
Cliff Ronning, Vancouver former Canuck, is going to come over. Kelly Buchberger, of course, Oiler captain, and referee Tim Peel is coming up from St. Louis to join us. So,
oh geez,
we're working on a couple more.
Okay, so you got a few of them. So you can go to hockeyheroesgame.com. Now, is it just foursomes? People, can they sign up we got a few people texting. Can you sign up as a twosome, or do you have to sign up as a foursome?
No, we have twosome and foursome options, and every golf entry includes a ticket to the banquet, the Friday night banquet. So definitely some added value there. And like I say, once you get on the course, there's of course the little things you can do to get your chances better. We have just about $100,000 in potential winnings on prizes between hole-in-ones. We have a hole-in-two contest with a long drive pro coming. He'll hit the ball 400 and something yards, and if you can get it in from there, it's a trip for 2 or 3. I can't remember how many it is, down to Pebble Beach to play golf. So it's we got some pretty cool stuff.
That hole-in-two, use the pros drives. It's kind of like a scramble on the one hole, like a shamble. You just got to hit the second one in.
Yeah, you betcha.
Oh, it's kind of a nice idea, Trent. I like it. Yeah. So hockeyheroesgame.com is the website. It's where you can sign up. You can have a lot of fun if you're a good golfer, you like hockey stories, and then you want to get some kids playing sports. It's not just hockey, as you mentioned, which I think is important, whether it's football, soccer, basketball, whatever it is that they're into. You'll get them in lacrosse or whatever else you guys help them out. And then that's I like helping out in the rural areas, so that's fantastic. Trent, we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, one other quick thing, if you want to come just for the banquet and have a great time, we have tables for sale for that as well. You don't have to be a golfer to be involved, and yeah, it's a great time.
Yeah, well, there's probably more of those people that just like come there, have fun at the dinner, and then like, I don't have to embarrass myself on the golf course. So that's perfect.
You bet.
Awesome, Trent. Thanks for this. Good luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
There you go. There's Trent Goudreau from hockeyheroesgame.com. I think it's fantastic. There's so many people that just start something because they see a need in their community and they want to help out. And you have that. So I know we have lots of listeners from outside the Edmonton area and Edson and around Whitecourt area. So Barhead, if you want to play, you're from up there. Heck, you want to make the drive up Highway 43. I've done it many times. Whitecourt's actually a really easy drive. You wheel up probably from the west end of Edmonton. I'm going to say you can get there in an hour and a half. It's easy, man. I remember growing up driving up there. Now Whitecourt, when I got working in the oil field, just the expansion and how much different that place looks. It's amazing. So it's a fun little town if you've never been. Like I know Struddy's never been to Whitecourt. Struddy's barely been to Rollyview. So I think he's driven through Whitecourt on his way to Grand Prairie, but he's probably never stopped. Have you ever actually been in Whitecourt? I'm
like Struddy on the way to GP once, but it was a blur. So
once,
yeah.
You've been to Grand Prairie once?
Once, yeah. I don't like to wander off too far. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What did you go there for?
It was a soccer tournament I was coaching.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the provincials. Yeah, so we went up to GP.
Okay.
Had a good time up there.
Wheeled through Fox Creek then, Valley View.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's blips on the radar as we flew by.
It's too bad you didn't know about the donuts in DeBolt then, eh?
No. Well, there was a place that was advertising the world's best bathroom.
Oh yeah, that's in Valley View.
Is that Valley View? Okay,
yeah,
we didn't make the stop.
I think it's. I think it was. They got voted. I think it was a Shell, if I'm not mistaken. I know exactly where it is, and because I stopped in one time, and I'm like, dude, this is like, it's like a penthouse of bathrooms. It's crazy.
What made it so good? Wow, is there a couch in there?
It was super clean. Number one, like clean beyond clean, but it was very spacious and just everything about it. Like it was painted up. Like honestly, you went in there and you're just, which is not a place you want to stay. But you're kind of like, you know, you're washing your hands a little bit longer in here. Like it was very comforting. I thought the stalls, you know, it was like first class. I thought they're a little wider. So that's what I remember from it. So yeah, they definitely, you know, they put in their time and it clearly works Because I remember specifically one time I just want to go see what makes it good. And then I'm like, all right, I can see why they won. Like it was definitely different.
Kids like Coach were like, yeah, Coach, did you stop? It was nice. I'm like, oh, no, we didn't make the stop, but maybe next time.
Yeah, see, you missed out. You missed out. So clearly it works because then when you stop now, you're probably going to go in, you're going to buy something. So it's probably they got their investment back. I'll say. They got their investment back. I like it. 4 o'clock on the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, Orders Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. Let's get to the comments. Sports 1440 update brought to you by Booster Juice. The ultimate summertime smoothies are back. Dive into a wave of refreshment with their Watermelon Wave. You can download the Booster Reward app today and try one. Only at Booster Juice.
The Sports 1440 update.
Busy times in the NHL continuing as the St. Louis Blues have signed forward Pavel Buchnevich to a 6-year, $48 million extension. That's an AAV of $8 million per season. The Blues also brought in winger Matthew Jozo and a 2025 third-round pick from the Sens. They also grabbed center Radek Faksa from the Stars. Both teams getting future considerations back in return. The Tampa Bay Lightning have signed defenseman Victor Hedman to a 4-year, $32 million extension. The Sens keeping a restricted free agent forward Shane Pinto, 2 years. Pinto, 23, had 9 goals and 27 points in 41 games with the Sens last season. The Penguins signing defenseman Sebastian Aho to a 2-year contract, $1.55 million. The Ducks acquiring Brian Dumoulin from the Kraken in exchange for a 2026 fourth-rounder. The Stars signing Colin Blackwell to a 1-year deal. Panthers do the same with Mackenzie Entwistle. It's a 2-way deal. And the Tampa Bay Lightning also signing free agent forward Cam Atkinson to a 1-year deal with an AAV of $900,000. In the majors today, Jays in action. They will take on the Astros. First pitch set for 5:07. UEFA Euro Championship earlier today. Netherlands blanks Romania 3-0. Also Turkey over Austria 2-1. Later tonight at Copa America, Brazil takes on Colombia and Costa Rica up against Paraguay. Both those games will kick off at 7. In the WNBA, you got the Liberty and Lynx. Sky take on the Dream. The Aces host the Fever, and the Mystics head to LA to take on the Sparks. And some news for Team Canada at Copa. Midfielder Tajon Buchanan was taken away in an ambulance after suffering a tibia injury at practice ahead of their quarter-final matchup. Canadian defender Alistair Johnson said the injury occurred after coming together of players. He said the injury could be heard as soon as it happened and described the team's mood as somber. Coming up in Hour 3 of the Jason Gregor Show, we'll hear from Mark Spector of Rogers Sportsnet, and we'll ask 5 questions. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440.
How are you? Jason Gregor, Connor Halley on Sports 1440 Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. Hey, Greg's, the rest of these show hosts have nothing on you. Custom bathroom chat. Boom shakalaka. Exactly, Tyler. Hey, we cover all bases here. Because trust me, if you're ever, because let's be honest, most people, one thing that you would try to avoid if you can are public washrooms. So if you know where there's one that's been deemed the best, and I'm like, you know what? I can hold it. I can wait another 45 minutes if I have to. I'm not a toddler anymore. Then it's worth it. So that's where that comes in. Hey, Greg, shout out to the Crooked Creek Donuts. Oh, buddy, they're so good. I'm telling you. And I know we had a few people texting that they're going up to GP. Just stop in at Crooked Creek. And you can't miss it because there's the big donut, literally. It's like on a pole. You can't miss it. So if you're driving towards Grand Prairie, it'll be on your left-hand side. If you're coming from Grand Prairie, it'll be on your right-hand side. You can't miss it. So it's, I guess if you're coming from Edmonton, you pass Valley View, then if you've reached DeBolt, you missed it. Okay, it's before DeBolt.
My question.
Yeah.
Have you had Kalmar donuts?
Oh, yeah.
What's better?
Well, Kalmar donuts are pretty good.
I made that trek.
But I would still, I think I would probably rank Crooked Creek slightly higher.
Okay.
Not a lot. Because it's hard, because it also depends certain flavors too, right? Like some donuts are just, like I can go to the best donut store and you can give me 6 donuts. I'm going to like some of them better from the same store just because everybody has, a little bit different taste of what you like in a donut. So like, I don't really love the crullers. Some people love them. I'm not a huge fan of them, but other people love them. So I get it. It's fine. Right? Like my dad, my late father, he loved the maple Long John. I didn't mind it, but I like chocolate better. But he loved the maple. So now I will have one every now and then just to remember him.
An elite donut right there.
Yeah. See, I don't know why, but like the Long John and the donut, they're the same. They're shaped different, but I like the Long John quite a bit. Now, certain donuts are like Boston cream. Oof, I like it. Like it a lot. So, God. Might have to make a trek up to Crooked Creek. Now, I grew up, my mom's what does she have? 6 brothers. And so she grew up just outside of Crooked Creek. So that's, I know that area quite well. Byzantin, for anybody who's driven up there. Like, I would say this. I could do, if we had a game called Alberta Towns That You've Been In, having worked in the oil patch for many years when I was younger, I would do quite well in that game. Struddy, terrible. Connor, terrible. LT, any of the Alberta towns on the way to Saskatchewan, he'd do all right. North and West, no, I don't think so.
It'd be you and the Duke.
Yeah. Now, has the Duke, the Duke is, he's big on Daysland and Didsbury and around there, but has he, well, Didsbury and Daysland aren't actually close to each other, but I'm curious, has he been west very often? I have to ask the young Duke. So we'll see.
He has a line west of the something that he says he doesn't like to cross very often. I'll have to report back to you.
Yeah,
but there's a part he doesn't like to travel.
There's
over too far.
A few, right? Like we could play a fun game. Like summertime, I love on the show sometimes because we get to have, we talk a lot of sports as we will. We have Jeff Skinner coming up. Don't worry. Struddy's coming up and more. But there are times when I think there's a lot of people who haven't even visited some of the cool places in Alberta, right? I got to go. It's like you go to the East Coast, right? TR's talked about it. The East Coast is fantastic. Now, I've been there once in my life, but I want to go for like a 3-week tour and really experience it. And I think there's lots of other places, but there's some really, like, if you had to tell somebody, if we said, what's the one place in Alberta you want to go and why, what would it be? And don't just say Banff, because, most people mean to Banff. Like, is there a certain trail you've hiked? I think that's important because there's a lot of great places. You don't need a ton of money if you want to go on cool traveling trips. Like, trust me, it's great being to Maui, but you got to save up a few years, go to Maui, man. It's expensive. But you can have like I tell anybody to go to Canmore and to bike the Goat Creek Trail. Because you bike through the mountains from Canmore to Banff, and through the mountains, it's about 19 to 20K. And like, there's a few, you know what, you're biking up. Now, if you're a good biker, you'll probably make it without having to stop. But you might have to stop and walk it the way up. But some of the hills, like my 7-year-old, who's a pretty good biker, though, we went in it, and he made it up 2 of them. The rest he had to push his way up. And then when he was 9, we did it again, and he made it up, I think, 4 out of the 7. So pretty good. And that's when we taught him the tell yourself, I can do it. I can do it. Because I was trying to convince him that, you know what, your brain is what's going to tell you to quit, not your body, when you're just biking up those hills. And so that was a good little learning lesson. So as most kids would do, he took it very literal, and he literally was saying it out loud to himself. But he got up for them. And I'm telling you, it was and we stop in there. There's like a little waterfall. It was amazing. And it's just so quiet. So I'd recommend to anyone, if you go to Canmore and you haven't done it, get a good bike, pump up your tires, and take the tour. You go the Goat Creek Trail, then you go through Banff, you have lunch, and then you bike down the path on the highway. I don't remember the name of that bike path, but it's pretty popular, but you'll figure it out. And you bike it right, and then it's downhill from Banff. So if you're a little tired, it's a little bit easier ride home. So I'd be curious. Like, Cons, if you had to pick one place in Alberta that you would recommend to go, where would it be?
Ooh, that's just tough. Because the first that pops up is the bigger ones. I will say one of my buddies has a cabin out at Calling Lake, so just north of Athabasca, about 20, 30 minutes. Beautiful lake for fishing if you want to get out there. A fantastic beach. That's one I would check out. And then, I mean, anywhere in that Banff, Canmore, what is it, Dead Man's Flats?
Oh, yeah.
In that area. I
Okay.
think that area is beautiful. And I say it every time I go out there, like, geez, I don't come out to the mountains enough. My wife and I, we go maybe twice a year to Jasper, a couple times out to Banff, Canmore. But yeah, anywhere in the Rockies, you're set.
Yeah, nice. Oh, the other thing, how about a shout out to the Edmonton Riverhawks and the 9,000 plus fans? Did you see the stadium yesterday? Unbelievable. They are doing such a fantastic job of making baseball a fun event. And it's a great sport if you love baseball. But yesterday, did you see the pictures that the Riverhawks posted online? The crowd, they had 9,000 plus at the game yesterday. I don't know, some of you obviously listening went. Like, how fun is it? It's a beautiful day for ball. A beautiful day. And they've done great. The Stingers continue to get crowds. If the Elks can ever win a game, they'll probably get some crowds again. But, man, that is one of the best stadiums around. They set a league record in attendance last year. And they'll probably shadow that this year. And when you consider like the Cape Cods and other leagues, I think they're going to rival them. So tip of the hat to the prospects, tip of the hat for all the fans who continue to go out and support the team. Because I'm telling you, for those young players, man, that's a thrill. You're in that baseball diamond yesterday, and you got 9,000 fans. You just feel the energy. Like, listen to Adam Henrique talk about one of the reasons why he came back to Edmonton. He had been in the playoffs in 2012. He was a rookie, wasn't married. And he's played a grand total of 4 playoff games since. Never really had a playoff experience. So his wife has never really experienced the playoffs. Now, because they just had a very newborn when he got traded here, she didn't come right away, but she came for the playoffs later on. And he talked about how one of the reasons when he was making his decision to sign in Edmonton, it was a family decision. You know what? Your wife has to be happy with you because you want to live with her. She wants to live with you. Right? She stays here, whichever city you're in. You're gone on road trips for 10 days, 6 days, 8 days, right? They're there all the time. And they're there with young kids sometimes. So he said it was a family decision. And A, he wanted to be on a team that had a chance to win. B, there was some familiarity, right? Obviously, they found some other families to get along with, which is important. But it was the experience, he said, from his wife and the playoffs and how much fun she had being in the crowd in that atmosphere. So somebody's never experienced it. Trust me, they want to do it again. So hat tip to the fans. Hey, maybe you won't get gouging ticket prices next year. That would be nice. So, hey guys, stop in at the Miners Cafe for pie in Nordegg. It's Wicked from Stewart. Ooh. Hey, a nice little hike in Nordegg, and then you stop in at the Miners Cafe. I like it. Like it a lot. Yeah, Legacy Trail. That's what it's called on the, thanks, Phil. Legacy Trail from Banff to Camera. That's where you bike around. It's great. Hey, Greg's, have you heard anything about the prospects coming to Spruce Grove? Yeah, once their facility's built. It's getting like, it was supposed to be built 2 years ago. There's been lots of delays, but I actually drove through the Grove and saw it. And it now, again, I didn't stop in, but it looks a lot closer. Like it might be ready for next year, finally. So that could be that. Hey, for baseball fans, that'll be pretty good. Brand new facility should be good. Hey, Gregor, you mentioned all the changes up front. Why do you think the Oilers didn't make any changes on the back end? Well, they have 6 defensemen under contract. First off, right? So Vincent Desharnais left because all the 6 guys that played in the Stanley Cup final, the majority, because of course Desharnais did play 1 game, but Ekholm, Bouchard, Nurse, Broberg. Now he's an RFA, but he's got no arbitration rights. I know I've seen some people talk about offer sheet. I'd be very surprised if he gets offer sheeted. He played 12 NHL games this year. Now he looked good in the playoffs. Don't get me wrong, but this is going to be one where he's probably going to sign a contract and he's going to exceed the value on the contract. You're going to need that because some guys don't match their contract. Like it happens on every team every year. And people get so freaked out about the ones, well, he's having a down year. Yeah, it happens. Like if every player could live up to his contract every year, then you'd have a lot more goals. You'd have a lot fewer goals. Like how can you can't have everybody in the league do it. You can't have all your offensive guys live up to it and then have your defensive guys. It's impossible. Right? So you just hope that you have more guys who are equal or above their contract value. That's all you want because not everybody's going to live up to it every year. It's virtually impossible. So the reason why I don't think they made any moves on defense was A, they would have had to trade a defender away. B, I feel like there's no rush. This defense core, well, not perfect, also got you to within 1 game, 1 win of hoisting the Stanley Cup. They're not terrible. There's no need to hyperbolize the Oilers' defense and act like they're awful. They're not awful. Now, could Darnell Nurse play better next year in the playoffs? Yeah, I think he can. I think Philip Broberg probably is going to be better just because he has more experience. Same with Evan Bouchard. Like he's still growing, learning as a player. Now, you know what? Like maybe Ekholm's not as good. Who knows? We'll see. But, I think Nurse can play better for sure. Kulak's pretty much what does everybody in Edmonton call him? Playoff Kulak? He's pretty consistent on playoff time. Well, even in the regular season. Now, Cody Ceci, he had some up and downs. He had some really good games in the playoffs. He was way better in the 3rd and 4th rounds. No question about it. Right, really, since what, game 5 of the Vancouver series, he was much better. Kind of like Skinner. And Cody Ceci, love him or hate him, when it's game 7, that guy shows up. Scored 2 goals in game 7s, and then he had an unreal outlet pass to Matthias Janmark to spring him for that breakaway. Now, I know the haters will never talk about it. Imagine if they had won that game. You'd be talking about that pass from Cody Ceci. So will they look to adjust their blue line during the course of the season? I think they will. But there was no rush or urgency because they had them all signed. They only had 7 forwards signed when free agency began. Then they signed Henrique. They re-signed Brown. They got Janmark. They got Perry. Then they got Arvidsson and Skinner. It's a pretty big day. So that's why I think they haven't had to do anything for their defense. And there's no rush or urgency. You don't have to have your complete roster set when the season begins. In an ideal world, sure, I guess. And I don't even know if they have to make a massive move at the deadline. They might just look to say, hey, we'd like maybe a better puck-moving right-shot defender for our 3rd pair. Or maybe 2nd pair, depending on how Broberg plays as the season goes along. 422, Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you. Spec will join us. We got Struds coming up at 5, Jeff Skinner, 5:20, and more on The Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
What's cracking at Cattail Crossing? The
Oh, that's the question. I think the Oilers do. Hey, Stingers, they're doing really well right now. Riverhawks, same thing. So Elks, they got a little ways to go. Little ways to go. And for them, but we'll see. Hey, speaking of the we talked about the Riverhawks and their unreal game yesterday with all the huge crowd, which is fantastic. Huge shout out to Stingers guard Elijah Miller, as he set a CEBL record for most 3-pointers made in a game. He was 10 of 12. Woo-hoo! Hey, he drained 10, but 10 of 12, man. That is some sharp shooting. Sharp shooting by Miller for the Stingers. So it's pretty big. We're going to get to the spec report brought to you by GS Construction as they continue on. Hey, construction time. It is busy all the time. They're still hiring. Go to Indeed.com. Look up GS Construction, whether you're just starting out or you've been a foreman, top man, top woman. They've got all sorts of different openings, and they love promoting from within. So you get your foot in the door. You can last there for quite a while. So, I think we just lost Spec. So, Jabroni, we'll try to reconnect with him. Meanwhile, we get a lot of texts coming in, 833-401-1440. Hey, guys, do you think Kane is going on LTIR? Well, if I looked at the tea leaves and I look at the picture of the Oilers salary cap right now, where they're basically $2.5 million over the cap today. They still have to sign Broberg and Holloway. They're both RFAs. Neither has arbitration rights. Unless one's going to get a long-term deal, which I'd be surprised considering neither one's played a lot. I haven't really put up many numbers. Like, you can project and think they're going to be that way, but you know what? You might wait another year and then do it long-term where you have a little bit more of a sample size. So I would think between the two of them, at most, it's going to be a combined 2.5 mil, probably lower. So we'll see. Because they got no arb rights. Like, that's just, it's the one time where the team really controls things in the negotiation. So, so if they do get to 2.5, that would put them $5 million over the cap. You put Kane on LTIR and you're fine. So the reason why I think Evander Kane on LTIR is a possibility is because of what Jeff Jackson said yesterday when asked about Evander Kane, when he mentioned how Kane has a hip issue. Hip is now, when Kane said sports hernia, we talked a lot about sports hernias before, and that, it's not really a hernia. When you think of a hernia, right? Like, anybody who's had the hernia, it's like you got that spring sticking out of you, essentially. That's not what they call it, a sports hernia, but it's not. It's called athletic pubalgia. And it's really, it can come from pain in the hip, abdominal area, inflammation of the pubic bone, lots of different things. So the fact that Jackson mentioned hip, now, if you have a hip issue, that's totally different. Now, maybe there's just lots of wear and tear and rest, and medical treatment, physical treatment can help it. It doesn't always require surgery. But if it's a hip and requires some sort of surgery, now it all depends on what type of surgery. So that could vary from, maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 8 months. Right? I don't know. So considering that here today, the NHL regular season, if you missed it, the Oilers will have their season opener on home ice on Wednesday, October 9th. The season begins the night before. There's a few games, including the Panthers, Stanley Cup champs. They'll have their banner raising ceremony that night. And you have the Oilers opening up against the Jets the next night. That's when they'll probably raise the Western Conference banner. I guess, what is it? Clarence? I don't even know what it's called now. Is it still called the Clarence Campbell Trophy? Yeah, it should be. So anyway, the Oilers. So if you look at that from today, we are talking 98 days. So just over 3 months. So depending on what the surgery is, if it's needed or not for Kane, I think there's probably a good chance he could start the season on LTIR. Not a guarantee. Decent chance. Jeff Jackson said they're going to get second opinion with other doctors because they've talked to their doctors about it. Obviously, he's not going to go in depth on what it is that they're getting a second opinion on, but the fact they're getting a second opinion leads you to believe that maybe it's something that might require surgery. And again, players don't just say, oh, surgery without exhausting the other options first. Even with all the advancements in technology today, there is never a guarantee that it works at all. So hey guys, thanks for your fit in or leave discussion regarding Edmonton. I'm originally from the U.S., South Midwest, West Edmonton girl, married her and have a little place southeast of Edmonton. Believe me, there's perhaps no better places to reside but to live here. There isn't much wrong with life here. My family visit and find it hard to go home, and some have moved here. Great town, great life, fantastic summers in Alberta as a whole. From Tracy, ex of Kenting Drilling. Whew, Kenting Drilling, that's going back. My late father used to work there. Still, the reason I always remember Kenting Drilling because they gave him a plaque. And so as a kid, I never really understood it till I got older, but they gave him a plaque that said, for remaining calm, cool, and collected. And of course, it was a joke gift because he was pretty much the opposite. But for a long time, I was like, oh, geez, look at Dad at work. Then as I got older and I, realized that was definitely not the case. God, we had a good laugh over that. Woo-hoo. For the longest time. So yeah, Kenting Drilling. Ooh, classic. It's going back a little ways. I like it. Hey guys, I honestly think the Oilers did the best in free agency, but Nashville did very good as well. I like the fact that Edmonton looked everywhere. What do you think of all their depth defenseman signings from Spruce Grove Rick? Well, I'll be honest. At first, I was like, okay, you know what? They signed Josh Brown. I was a little surprised by the 3-year deal, to be honest. I mean, like a depth guy like that. Now, people say it's $1 million. You can bury him in the minors. I'm like, yeah, sure, but why do you sign a guy like that who's bounced around? Obviously, they've done some intel scouting on him to think. So either A, he's going to play here, or they really want his physicality and toughness in the American League. But it's one of the two. Because then they signed Connor Carrick. Now, Carrick's on a 2-way deal, which tells me really good chance he's starting in the American League. Then they signed Troy Stetcher. And he's at $787, so he would count less on the cap in Edmonton than Brown would. But both are going to count full money in the American League. Now, the owner obviously has more money than he knows what to do with. So, you know what? Hey, they made a lot of money. Trust me, they can pay some guys one-way deals in the minors. Now, they're very different players, Stetcher and Brown. Stetcher's a more established NHL player. There's no question. You look at, Brown doesn't have the most appealing analytics numbers. Now, the publicly available analytics numbers aren't the gospel, right? Some people like to pretend they are. They're not. Okay, but they can give you a decent insight and say, okay, let's now look forward, maybe dig a little bit deeper. What do we find? So Brown, he's bounced around, doesn't really stay in one place very long. So I think, he's 30 years of age. He's 6'5", 220 pounds. So I can see how people look and say, hey, maybe we can work with him here. Now, they look at Vinny Desharnais and they see a progression that they made with Desharnais in the organization. Now, he had to put in all the work. But they encouraged him to try to, Paul Coffey specifically this year, to work on his puck skills and become a better defender with the puck, right? He's a defenseman is what I meant, but just better playmaker with the puck. Don't just dump it out, try to make plays. Now, that's something that, and even Vinny told us that he really needs to work on lots in practice. He's got a whole offseason regime that's focused around that because it doesn't matter which team he's playing on. He wants to make more plays now. Like, who wouldn't want? And any coach, I think, who's worth their weight is not going to tell their defenseman, please don't make more passes. I'd rather you just dump it out, right? If anybody's coaching that way in minor hockey, please don't. It's not how you want to coach. Let the kids make mistakes. Hey, guys, if Kane does go on LTIR, what's the benefit? Well, it's a good question because I think there's a little bit of misconception with LTIR. LTIR only really helps you if the player stays on it all year long. If Evander Kane, and I'm using him as an example because it's not a guarantee, but let's just say Kane starts the season on LTIR. If he's ready to play in February, well, now you have to remove $5.1 million of cap space to get him in. The advantage is even if a player goes on LTIR during the season, but is done and is not coming back that year, then you can use his cap space. Right? The Oilers, if Kane goes on LTIR, that just allows them. They basically already used up his cap space by signing Henrique and then re-signing Holloway and Broberg. Right? So they wouldn't have necessarily more. It's just he goes on LTIR so they can fit everybody under the cap and they don't have to trade anybody away. So the benefit, I guess, is if Kane had a season-long injury, and it's way too early and it's way too premature to even suggest that. Right? Like Kane had a down year. He still scored 15 goals, 5-on-5, which was tied for 5th on the Oilers in what many perceive a down year. So I wouldn't be just, dancing and doing cartwheels thinking that Kane can't help your team. Now, I know some people say, hey, go to the school of Vegas and just have him sit out all year long and then show up in the playoffs. Okay. But if you don't play all season long, I think it shows you how good Nikita Kucherov is as a player. Again, though, he only was out January, February, March, April because the playoffs started in May that year. It's different if Kane has surgery now and it's hip surgery and you think he's going to be that impactful in the playoffs. Like you can hope, but I would think the odds would be rather low. Rather low. So. Gregor, how does the Campbell buyout impact it? Well, instead of being a $5 million cap hit, he's a $1.1 million cap hit this coming season. So the Oilers saved $3.9 million. That's why they bought him out. And he signed, I don't know if you saw it, but he signed in Detroit, which was an interesting decision to sign because at best he's going to get to split duties in the American League. Look at their goaltending situation. They got Husso, they signed Talbot, and they got Alex Lyon, and they got Jack Campbell. Now, maybe they told him we're gonna trade Alex Lyon, so you're going to be our starter in the American League. But I found that an interesting choice for Campbell. He just wants to go somewhere. Now, he might never get back to the NHL. You never know. Look at Calvin Pickard, though. Calvin Pickard spent, 6 years, essentially, in the American League until he got an opportunity to show that he could play in the NHL again. Maybe that'll happen to Campbell. Maybe it'll be 2 years. Maybe it'll be 3. I don't know. Maybe he'll never get back. Well, his contract now won't hold him out. Right? Before, they could. Hey, Gregor, is there a deal to be made with Anaheim? CC for Radko Gudas? No. Radko Gudas isn't playing in Canada. He's mentioned it many times. It's not happening. So you can stop it right there. Not going to happen. Take a quick break. We'll come back. That's a little fine for spec. And we'll get to 5 questions and more on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. You can always email us in our inbox at 833-401-1440 is the text line. It's brought to you by eWell. And they are your power play partner, supplying the City of Champions and Alberta with quality electrical gear since 1975. They're coming up on their 50th year next year. EWEL.ca.
Join NHL alumni at the hockey.
4:45. Welcome back, Jason Gregor, Connor Halley, Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube and Facebook. Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca. It is time for 5 questions brought to you by The Brick. And hey, from Friday to Monday only, you can find fantastic savings in every department up until next Monday. All right. Find chest freezer starting at only $199 at The Brick and thebrick.com.
It's time for 5 questions on the Jason Gregor Show.
All right, Gregor, question number 1 for you today. Was there anything that Jeff Jackson and the Oilers could have done better yesterday, factoring cap space and the situation?
Well, no. It kind of has for like it's reality. It's not utopia. So I thought they did probably better than anybody expected. Now, obviously, they have some information, when you look at the cap and the fact that they're over. So, they have some information they haven't made public, obviously. And, whether it's injury or, potential trade or whatever. But I think overall, it's hard to argue. There's nobody who got it. Like, if Corey Perry at 1.15 is the big overpay, like, what's the overpay? $250K? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, oh, my goodness, they can't survive it. So, and he did score 12 goals last year. So if he scores 12 goals, then he earns his 1.15, and who knows if he even plays here. But when you consider Skinner, Henrique, and Arvidsson, 3 players at 10 mil combined, yeah, I think that's really solid free agency shopping by the Oilers.
Yeah, I'm with you. I knocked it out of the park. I mean, I was just following along like, okay, well, they signed these guys. How's the Janmark going to come back? How are they going to get Adam Henrique? Is that possible anymore? And to land them all, I thought it was a great job by Jackson and the team. So, full marks to them. Question number 2, other than the Oilers, was there a team that stood out to you in day 1, let's say day 1.5 of free agency?
Well, 2 teams. Nashville went out and made some big splashes for sure. Washington, like, man, Matt Roy, you're giving him 5.75 on 7 years. Like, whew, we'll see. But I'll say this: they were like, hey, we're not just giving up and going into full on rebuild. We're going to make some trades. We're going to retool. We're going to bring in some veterans. They traded for Jacob Chikrin. Like, I like that deal a lot, actually, for them. So, you look at their back end now; it's pretty solid. It's still got John Carlson. You got Chikrin and. Matt Roy's a good defender. I just think that contract's probably not going to age great, but they're like, we'll worry about that down the road. So I will say Washington and Nashville.
Yeah, hard to disagree with you on those ones. If I say stood out, so I guess that could be in a bad way.
Yeah.
I guess I was kind of curious, and the situation there might have been tough, but the Anaheim Ducks, like, they're fans, and not too many, but we've got the Duke, who's a big Ducks fan, and is just waiting for something to happen. So the Ducks also, I suppose, in maybe a different fashion, stood out to me. Question number 3. Now we jumped past the draft so fast here, right into free agency, and the Oilers kind of stole the headline for our market at least. But any team for you that really had a good draft in your books?
Well, it's hard to argue with San Jose, right? They got the best player in the draft. Dickinson's a defenseman that everybody's really high on. They got another top 6 forward. So I will go with San Jose. I don't. Look, one of my pet peeves is people who quickly judge to like winners and losers of the draft. And I'm like, well, what information did you have prior to the draft that's any more accurate 24 hours, 48 hours later to say, well, they're a winner for sure. You're a winner based on projection only, and you're a loser based on projection. Now, a team like Tampa Bay don't have a pick till 118. Yeah. Okay. It's going to be hard for them to have a great draft. I get it. That's just based on statistics, but so I'll say San Jose because I'm pretty sure, Macklin Celebrini is going to be a player. Now, how great of a player? I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure like you. I'm not a scout. I can't tell the future. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I'll say Utah. I liked Utah as they had 11 picks. So you load it up there, get TJ Ginla, you had Beto in the first round. Anytime you have 2 first-round picks, obviously a perk. But I'm going to say the Utah Hockey Club. Waiting to see what that team name inevitably becomes. Question number 4 for you. Canada takes on Venezuela in the quarterfinals at Copa. For you, is making it this far a successful tournament for Canada?
I would think so. You know what? They got their first win of the and now they're into the to the quarterfinals. You know, like, is it just me? Like, does Venezuela seem beatable for them? Like, I think it is. So, yeah, I think it's a success because, you know, they got through, which I think is just, you have to win a game to get through. You have to win games to get through. They did. So, yeah, I don't see how you can deem it a success other than the Buchanan injury.
Yeah, not a good one for him. We'll have an update in the update shortly here to let you know if you missed that one. I think it is a win getting through. Obviously, maybe not the fashion they would have wanted, 1 goal for, 2 against, but they got through. They got past Chile, Peru. They're only North American of the states, and Mexico not getting through. I think Venezuela is going to be tough. 6 goals for, 1 against. They went 3-0 in a group with Ecuador, Mexico, and Jamaica. So I think it'll be tough, but I think it's a good step in the right direction for Canada. My final question for you, Gregor. Sam Walton opened up his first Walmart location on this day in 1962 in Rogers, Arkansas. Are you a Walmart guy? And it would comes to those big stores, you know the type I'm talking about. Do you have a favorite? It could be a closed one as well, Woodward's or something.
Yeah, I'm not a huge. I go to Walmart periodically for some things, but I'm not a regular there. No, far from it. I know they've gotten better, but for the long time they didn't do a lot of donations charity wise for big companies, so that didn't really stick well with me, at least in the U.S. They've gotten better though. Do I have a favorite? I'm probably going to say Woolco just because of the name. I always like the name of Woolco, so I'll go with that. It's not around anymore, so I know I'm aging myself. People are like, what? I've never even heard of it. But yeah, Woodward's, Woolco, Zellers. If you know, you know.
Zellers was great. I am a Walmart guy. I've stepped back a little bit since their owner purchased the Denver Broncos. A little bit of a silent protest, but they've got some great value there. The ranch dressing is top notch. Back when I was working on the night show, it was
like their ranch dressing's better than other ranch dressing.
So good. It's so good.
Why? What is different about it?
I don't know. Like the power rankings, Hidden Valley for me, not very high in the ranch rankings. Obviously, Kraft Peppercorn Ranch is the top, but they have a great ranch at Walmart. If you're like me, I was living paycheck to paycheck during the night show times, and Walmart had some great value there for me. But like I said, can't always support the Denver Broncos and what they do. So I've dropped off a little bit. My favorite store, I got to give a shout out to Canadian Tire. Like they have everything. You're going in there for a car part, and then you're leaving with like K-cups and candy. It's got it all. So I think that's one of my favorite stores to walk through.
Yeah. All right. Interesting. But I'll be honest, like I'm not a huge shopper. You know that. I don't. It's funny. Like I like to grocery shop. Like I don't know. There's something about going through the aisles. I kind of like it. So, but
does your wife like you grocery shopping?
Oh, I'm not a big impulse buyer. Well, I shouldn't say. I'm not. I used to be. I just avoid certain aisles because I know if I go down like the cookie aisle or others, like, yeah, come on. Like, I don't. If I avoid it, I have good discipline. If I drive down it, I have no discipline. That makes sense?
Oh, yeah.
Like I can have the discipline to get at the top of the aisle and just keep going. But if I make the turn into the aisle, I got some problems. So, yeah, no, I'm not, and I'm not a gluttonous shopper, right? Like I don't look at, cause certain, like if I see a good, like I'm a deal shopper, right? And nowadays though, I've learned, like I read the ingredients a lot. Like our food, we could have a whole show about the disasters of our food industry and the crap that they're allowed to put in food that people ingest. We could have a whole conversation about it. It took a lot of reading to understand a lot of the stuff. And there's so much stuff that's disguised. Like when it says no sugar, I'm always like, it's never that. That's usually too good to be true because they put other crap in there that's, even worse for you. So I do think the biggest thing that needs to change in our society is how they govern the food industry. And that when you go shopping in it, you should know what you're getting. Because they can make it healthy because they have healthy stuff. So why do we need all the crap? Especially now, right? Because they tell you, they put the real, if you stick to the outside aisles cons, then you're better. The more you go to the middle, the worse it is for you.
also a little more expensive at certain places down the middle.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
really.
One of my old employer told me that we're competitive around the outside, it's down the middle where we get you.
See, look, this is the inside stuff you learn from a con man.
I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Because it was expensive everywhere, but
yeah. Lots more text flying in, 833-401-1440. We got a lot of texts chiming in on this one. Ooh, people get fired up about shopping. I like it.
Can I tell you one thing also?
Yeah.
Kelly in a truck called me during the last segment.
Yeah.
He had bad news. He said that Shell was bought a couple of years ago. The washroom, not that great now.
So the new owner took it over and didn't live up to the name of having the best washroom.
Yeah.
Well, that's a disappointment because you know what's going to happen now? People are just going to avoid it. I'll tell you right now. We'll be stopping at the Shell in Valley View. Come on, man. It was so hyped up. Now you don't like, how can you let yourself go like that? No one, you don't want to let yourself go. Why would you let your washroom go like that? It's not good. Hey guys, why do you think the Oilers traded for a first round pick this draft? What's your thoughts on their second round pick, Vinny, the goalie from JC? Well, JC, it's pretty easy to me why they made the trade. They felt like Sam O'Reilly was a player who they really liked in the first round this year. And to me, if you really like a player, then go get him. Be decisive. So they gave up a first rounder next year. I think the organization is confident that A, they're going to make the playoffs. So B, it's not lottery protected. Right now it's top 12 protected. So I guess there's a chance you just do that just in case, right? You could have some crazy string of injuries. So you never know. So you don't completely sewer yourself. But if the Oilers make the playoffs, then at best it's a 17th, but I think they're going to finish higher. So probably at worst, if the Oilers got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, it's probably like pick 24, 23. They really like Sam O'Reilly. Actually, even higher than that. Sorry, they like Sam O'Reilly a lot. So it'd be pick 25, I think it would be, right? Yeah, no, 24. I think they just like Sam O'Reilly. And listening to the scouts who actually watch him play on a regular basis and don't just look at his stats and say, oh my God, this guy only had 56 points. Well, ask yourself why he only had 56. Doesn't play in the power play, wasn't in their top 6. He was a 17-year-old on a team that won the OHL championship. Right? Rick Pracey outlined how environment is something you really have to look for when you're drafting these players, because you can have a guy like Sam O'Reilly who scores 20 goals and 56 points playing on a super deep London team, or you can have a kid who scores 30 goals and 70 points, but he's on the first line. He's getting power play time. Well, of course, he should have better numbers. But as you heard earlier in today from Matt on the show, who covers London, watches all their games, late in the year as a rookie, he was taking the key important faceoffs. He's good on board battles. He became an excellent penalty killer. And he's still got good offensive instincts. So if he's rounding out the defensive side of his game, and now this coming season, he'll get more of an opportunity, you'll see his numbers jump up, then that's why they did it. As for goalie, I saw a lot of the goalie people. They had Vinny ranked as one of the highest ranked goalies. But again, and to me, goalies have proven time and time again. Like, let's talk about him in 3 years and see where he's at in his development. Because so much can change at that position. It's very difficult. And most goalies, the majority, don't really hit their stride till they're 25. Look at Stuart Skinner. How old is he now? He's 25. Right? Him being a starter at 24, that's kind of an outlier a little bit. There's not many of those guys. It's just a hard position to break into in the NHL and find consistency at. Whether you're 22, never mind 22, try to do it at 28, 30, 32. It's very different than forwards and defense. But based on projections, yeah, people thought they did a very good job getting him at the 64 spot. Let's get to the Conman Sports 1440 update brought to you by Albatross Insurance. They have immediate job openings for experienced flat roofers and sheet metal fabricators. You must have experience with Torch on Roofing. Steady ongoing work and industry-leading wages and benefits. Apply at roofingalbatross.ca. That's roofingalbatross.ca.
The Sports 1440 update.
Busy times in the NHL continuing today. The St. Louis Blues have signed forward Pavel Buchnevich to a 6-year, $48 million contract extension. That's an AAV of $8 million per season. The team also acquired Matthew Joseph from the Sens and center Radek Faksa from the Dallas Stars. St. Louis sending future considerations to both of those teams. The Tampa Bay Lightning signing defenseman Victor Hedman to a 4-year, $32 million extension. The deal comes one day after Hedman became eligible to sign the extension as he enters the final season of an 8-year, $63 million deal. Also, Ottawa Senators have signed restricted free agent forward Shane Pinto to a 2-year deal. Pinto, 23, had 9 goals and 27 points in 41 games with the Sens last season. In the majors tonight, lots going on. The Jays are in action. They'll host the Astros. First pitch set for 5:07. A couple games underway right now. Cards, Pirates, Mets, Nationals, both scoreless. White Sox lead the Guardians 1-0 in the second. Also in the second, the Red Sox up on the Marlins 2-0. Later tonight, Twins take on the Tigers. The Phillies head to Wrigley. Royals take on the Rays. Brewers, Rockies. Athletics, Angels. Orioles in Seattle. And the Dodgers up against the Diamondbacks. At the Euros earlier today, Netherlands knocked off Romania 3-0, and it was Turkey over Austria 2-1. Copa America tonight, Brazil takes on Colombia at Levi Stadium down in Santa Clara. And in Austin, Texas, you got Paraguay up against Costa Rica. 7 o'clock starts for both of those games. In the WNBA, the Liberty hosts the Lynx. That gets going shortly. Also, the Sky heading to Georgia, taking on the Dream. The Aces host Caitlin Clark and the Fever, and the Mystics in Los Angeles to battle the Sparks. And from the soccer world, Canadian midfielder Tajon Buchanan was taken away in an ambulance after suffering a tibia injury in practice, according to Canadian defender Alistair Johnson. The injury occurred after a coming together of players during a drill. Johnson said Buchanan's injury could be heard as soon as it happened and described the team's mood as somber. Coming up in the final hour of the Jason Gregor Show, we'll be joined by former NHLer Jason Strudwick and new member of the Edmonton Oilers, forward Jeff Skinner. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440.
5 o'clock. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley, the on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube and Facebook. Remember to get to playalberta.ca. Get in the game tonight. Lotto Max, $33 million up for grabs. Oof. Like I said, if you're feeling like karma's around, $3 million for Skinner, $3 million for Henrique. Oof. Add them up. Could make you pretty happy. Playalberta.ca. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you as we get to our big guest of the day, brought to you by Silent Rise Charter Company, a premier charter company with state-of-the-art motor coaches that will safely take you or your team to your next destination. Book your ride today at silentrides.ca. As we welcome to the program, Jason Strudwick.
The Jason Gregor Show presents Struds On.
It's the memories. That's what you remember. Memories. It's a bouquet of enjoyment coming in my mouth there. You know, it's like I always say, HK, who cares?
It's time for Struds On.
Struddy, how you doing?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. I'm still, I don't know if in shock's the right word, but just disbelief about the day that Jeff Jackson and the Oilers had yesterday.
Connor asked a question like, could they done any better? And I'm like, I don't really see how.
Well, I mean, considering the budget they had to work with, or you know, within a certain budget they were working with, they fit a lot of things in. And I truly feel that this team is, on paper, deeper than it was 10 days ago when it got to within 2 shots of winning the Stanley Cup, which is incredible. You know, let's assume they can get everyone on the ice and everyone's healthy and they're able to do it. I know that there's some gymnastics have to be done, but you're looking at holes. What do you have to fill? I mean, you can probably look and say we can maybe try to tweak the D if we need to when we get to that point at the trade deadline. But I mean, the depth up front is pretty incredible. Assuming everyone is healthy and is able to perform, you know, Leon Draisaitl's got to be excited. He got his Hyman, right? Arvidsson is a Hyman. He works hard. You do not have to tell this guy to go to the net. You don't have to tell him to play inside the dots. He goes hard there. And then Skinner, you know, he scores. That's what he does, right? He's got a little bit of feisty, but he scores goals. So on paper, it feels like that is a really nice compliment for Leon.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, you've got, you know, Jeff Skinner. Yeah, Jeff Skinner has more even strength goals than Draisaitl. But the Oilers have 4 of the top 31 goal scorers, even strength, the last 3 seasons on their team. 4 of the top 31, right? So you got guys who can score 5-on-5. Skinner's that guy. Arvidsson, you know, Arvidsson would be a lot higher if he didn't only play 18 games last year, right? But he's another guy who's only ever scored more than 4 power play goals in a season once, right? Like he even said it in his introductory interview. He's kind of like, yeah, I think the power play is okay. Like he's not expecting any power play time, right? But like I think he adds a little grit and sandpaper. And the other thing I think he adds is he's a veteran player who Draisaitl can be demanding at times to his line mates. And I think, you know, having veterans around him is a good thing.
Well, it is. And, you know, someone who's, I think your word been around, he has experience, right? And Arvidsson has played in big moments as well, right? His team, along with Ekholm, went to the Stanley Cup final. So, you know, you remember, it wasn't Kalle Järnkrok, was it? Who was the guy that battled with Crosby all the time on the bench? A Swede, I think he was. I can't think of his name, but he would battle with.
Wasn't it Dupuis?
No, it was a European guy. It was a European.
Oh, Hornquist.
Hornquist. That's the guy. Nice memory. Yeah, that's the guy. And he used to battle. I'm not expecting, you know, Arvidsson to challenge him like that, but you know, Arvidsson plays the type of game I think is very clear to like. It's very clear. You understand how he plays it, and I think Leon will like that, and that'll give Skinner the ability to kind of do what he does, but get open and hopefully be, you know, the recipient of some pretty nice passes from Leon. And then he got the garbage man going in front of net. So it looks like a nice fit. And, you know, it's funny you bring up the power play. I've been thinking about this the last 24 hours. 2 things. I think that you might see more action for the second power play unit. For obviously to get some guys like, because Skinner's not going the first power play. Arvidsson's not going the first power play. If Kane's healthy, he's not going on the first power play. But you also got to get those guys times, but also to reduce some of the ice time on the big guys. So you might go minute, you know, 75 seconds, 45 seconds. Even sometimes in a game, start the second unit, right? Just to get those guys in it. We saw the impact that have
had on the bottom six when they were given specific goals and jobs as far as the penalty killing unit. If they can bring that somehow to the PP, and I know it's an incredible power play. I'm not talking about revamping it, but reducing those minutes a little bit, Greg, to get everyone feel like they have a role on the team. I don't know how that can hurt.
Yeah, fair. The Oilers blue line, Struddy, they brought in a lot of depth guys. Stetcher's back. They bring in Brown for 3 years and $1 million. You're probably like, how the hell does that guy get 3 years? You're wishing for a 3-year contract in your career.
Yeah.
And then Carrick on a 2-way deal, which to me sounds like he's definitely going to the minors. What do you make like Stetcher and Brown? Very different defenders. Do you see one having the inside track on that number 7 spot?
It's funny, like Josh Brown is not as good as Vinny Desharnais. Just everyone clear, and he's, with all due respect, that's not his. He's not going to be able to move the puck like Vinny was able to, and not that Vinny was Bouchard, but he did a pretty good job moving it. So I think we're going to see here is there'll be opportunity. Like if I'm a young guy right now on this team, or Stetcher, or even Carrick, or anyone in the minors, there's opportunity because there's an injury. It's not necessarily going to be Brown that just goes and plays. Let's say someone's out for 12 games. He's probably not playing all 12 games. He'll get some, but they're going to bring guys up. There's opportunity here now to kind of weasel your way in, or not weasel, but to find a way, a path to some ice time, what we haven't seen before. It was 6 guys. And that was it. Broberg now is firmly in that top 6. But this is where I think that you could see the opportunity for a change on the back end, in the new year, if opportunity presents and you want to tweak the look back there as far as, I don't know if it's someone on the right or someone on the left, but I think you could see that because none of these guys are going to be like, oh, you got to play these guys, Stetcher or Brown, or down the line you go.
Struddy, looking at some of the other teams around the league, Nashville, and hey, they signed some older guys, proven guys, great for big money. I'm not sure how much better it makes them. They do have UC Saros, so that's good. I'm kind of curious about their defense a little bit in Nashville overall, top to bottom. But what do you make of Washington and all the moves they've made to try to just kind of stay relevant here at the times, right? Because hey, rebuilds aren't a guarantee to work. So they've elected to say, we're just going to try to retool on the fly.
Yeah, they sure are. And they got to get Ovi across the finish line here with all these goals. Like that's obviously what they're trying to do. But in the meantime, you had Dubois. You go and get Chikrin, who's, I think he's an interesting guy. They can keep, but they can sign him past this year. Let's say that they decided halfway through they didn't want to sign him. He wants it. That could be a really nice pickup because he really didn't give up that much to get him in the first place. So they're a team that I think they're really trying to get over that hump of what they've got back there. But I don't know. I mean, you look at that division; they're pretty good. You're going to have. I think Pierre-Luc Dubois has to be a very good version of himself all year for him to, for them to take that step forward. If he is what we saw in LA next year with that cap hit, I think it makes it pretty tough.
Yeah. I look at, the Pacific Division, Struddy, and Vegas, man, they're top 9. They might be the slowest top 9 in the league right now.
Yeah.
But they're big and they're heavy, and that's how they play, and they're still going to be good. I don't view them right now as a close to the team that won the cup. Vancouver, Jake DeBrusk is a better goal scorer than Lindholm, but they lose some depth down the middle for sure. LA really hasn't done much. They got Kemper and Fogle, and they got bigger Edmondson. That's a big deal for a guy like that. Edmonton was the best team in the West, and they really filled out some holes on their team. And I know that people don't love their blue line, but their blue line was still good enough to get them to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. It's not awful by any stretch, right? I think Nurse can play better in the second half. Needs to play better this year than he did in the second half in the playoffs last year. I think that's valid. But overall, I look at Edmonton, and right now, today, do they not seem like the clear favorite for you in the West?
They do, especially in the Pacific Division. When I'm looking at the Pacific Division, Seattle gets, Montour, who's a good D-man, and he obviously upgrades would have back there. And then you get, Chandler Stevenson, speedy guy, big bucks long-term. It feels a little bit desperate, and no disrespect to Chandler, but it feels a little bit desperate, that length of that contract. LA, I think we know what Fogle is. Kemper's, TBD. Joel Edmondson, I think 4 years. I'm not sure if you're going to get all those 4 years out of him. We know he has a history of injuries. Anaheim, I think we know. I've actually liked what San Jose's done. I'm not suggesting to be a playoffs, but they seem to be trying to stabilize that because that was a disaster last year. Like, I think the Hershey Bears could have beat them last year. Calgary. But when I look at Vancouver, I really like the addition of Jake DeBrusk to that lineup. I think if he just plays beside Pettersson, I'm guessing, I think Pettersson needs a little of that. He needs someone to go get that puck from him and grind it out. And Jake can shoot, and he's pretty good defensively as well. So I really like that pickup for them. Vinny Desharnais goes there. I think we know what he's like when the pace gets a little higher. How does he respond? And can he handle it? It'll be interesting because he knows the Oilers. He played against them so well. But I think when I look at what they did, the Oilers, and the term and the dollar figures they handed out, I think the Oilers had at the best by far in the Western Conference free agency day or period.
Where do you come out on the Oilers GM? And, I've heard San Bowman's name out there, Struddy. I just don't understand why you would do it. Like, you clearly, if you look at what they've done in free agency as a group, and because it's not like the GM is a dictator and makes all the decisions. So they have Jeff Jackson here. I don't think he's suddenly not going to be part of decision making, right? They've got Brad Holland. They've got, Keith Gretzky's assistant GM. Bill Scott. So they've got all their pro scouts. So why would you go after Bowman at this point? So, I just don't see him as a super GM that it's worth, based on his past, to bring him into Edmonton right now to inherit the best team in the West with the best player in the league and think that, really, what's he going to have to do as a GM this year? Make one trade to try to alter the defense?
Well, I think the big thing will be trying to get Leon to sign a contract, or at least get some idea of where he's at. And right. So that's probably number one. Then after that, you're right. I think the defensive trade will be one, and then probably juggling the cap. But I'm guessing Bill Scott can take a run at that. After the day they had, and after the playoff run they had, I think that Jackson can now take a deep breath. And I think he kind of said that. He goes, I haven't really had time to think about it, which I don't totally believe. I think that he has thought about what it could be like, but he's got to fill the spot. Just have another person around and to contribute and take some of the workload off the other guys. Stan Bowman has a track record of, he's won the Stanley Cup. He knows what that feels like, but this group has also been to the Stanley Cup final, 2 shots away of winning the cup. So I guess it's not winning, but you're pretty damn close. It's close you can get without winning in a game 7. Bowman being an interesting one. We saw the complete disaster that Columbus did when they brought in Babcock, and there really nothing changed. So if whoever hires the West Oilers or anyone, any of these people that are involved in the Chicago Blackhawks situation, what did you do? How did you learn? Not what did you do, but what did you do to change? How have you grown? What's your plan? Like, if it happens again, what are you thinking? What's the reporting procedure? Like, all that stuff. Because that disaster cannot happen again, and that would just completely derail any team, as you saw last year in Columbus, and they were horrible, and the Oilers have Stanley Cup aspirations this year. So I think you got to be really careful about that. It's not as clear cut as maybe people suggest, but I do think they fill that spot. But I don't think there's a rush now. I mean, everyone can leave the Oilers' office and come back in 2 months, and I think they're going to look the same.
Yeah, I just, you mentioned, hey, they got to negotiate with Draisaitl. Well, their negotiating team did a pretty good job with their current crop of UFAs. Leon Draisaitl's, let's look at it from afar. Hey, Leon, do you want 8 years? Do you want 7? Do you want 6? Do you want 5? What number do you want? And, is it close to 13.5 to 14 mil? That's really it. I don't think there's, Leon Draisaitl sees what just happened. Right, his head coach said in the playoffs, you know what? Leon's a superstar, doesn't really play with other top end guys, right? Hyman has, McKinnon and Rantanen, Marner and Matthews, etc. He hasn't really had that guy on a regular basis. So they go out, and now they don't get a superstar, but they get 2 pretty good players for him. So they're like, all right, these guys kind of know what we're looking for. I don't think we need some unreal negotiator here who's going to come in and convince Leon Draisaitl to take $10 million. It ain't happening, right? Like, Leon Draisaitl's contract is starting with a 13 minimum and maybe as high as a 14, right? And then it's a matter of, do you want 4 years, 5 to 8? I don't think it's that crazy of a negotiation, to be honest.
No, I think I think you and I could negotiate that deal. The problem happens is if he's unsure about his future, right? I think that's where things get tricky. And Leon, he said he wasn't sure about, hasn't even thought about it. Whatever, maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. But that is, I think, where things get tricky. And I think so. You need someone that can be prepared for everything in that scenario.
Struddy, have yourself a good day. I'm sure you were loving talking Mitch Marner for 3 hours in Toronto today. So, where's it getting traded?
Marner. Yeah, Mitch Marner and Tavares. A lot of talk about that. Who should be the captain? It's an interesting group over there. I like Tanev, but I'm not sure if I like him for 6 years. That'll be interesting how they get out of that one.
Yeah, well, it's called retirement LT. Well, he won't retire because he'd walk away from the money, so it'll be LTIR most likely.
Yeah, good point.
I hope he isn't hurt, but the way he plays, it's tough not to be. Struddy, have a good one. Jeff Skinner's joining us next.
Oh, awesome. Welcome. Talk to you later, buddy.
There you go. That's Jason Struddy. We will return. Jeff Skinner will join us on the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
One season.
Welcome back, Jason Gregor. Connor Halley with you on sports. 1440. My mic just cut out there. Oof. How you doing? Let's get to one of the newest members of the Edmonton Oilers. He, of course, has played 1,006 NHL games, has over 350 goals already, and is looking to make his first appearance in the playoffs as a member of the Edmonton Oilers next spring. Jeff Skinner, who signed a 1-year deal with the Oilers yesterday, joins us. Jeff, congratulations on the signing. How you doing?
Thank you. Good. Thanks. How are you?
I'm excellent, Jeff. I don't want to ask why you signed in Edmonton, because I think it's pretty clear. You want a chance to win, and there's some pretty good players that you're going to have an opportunity to play with. So I'm going to ask you instead, you've been able to score right from day one, 30 goals as a rookie, which is pretty impressive as a teenager in the NHL. Do you find, do you like Draisaitl and McDavid are very different in how they play? McDavid is just a speedster and attacks, and Draisaitl, he'll slow the game down. Is there a style of a center that fits better with your style?
Yeah, I was talking about those two players. I'm not going to be too picky about their style. So, but no, I know. I think it's hard to say. I think that in order to have success, I think sort of all three guys on the line have to be clicking. Obviously, some guys do complement each other a little bit different, but I do think what's nice about those two players is that even though their styles are different, they still find a way to complement different types of players, I think. And I think also the onus, I think, sometimes is on the winger to adapt. I think that the winger has to sort of read off the centerman a lot of times, because the puck can be in the middle a lot more. They're around the puck a little bit more. And I think that as a winger, you gonna try and want to read off them. And those two guys create a lot of space, so that makes that job a little bit easier than other guys. And I'm looking forward to being on the same team as those guys.
Yeah, for sure. Now you look at when you came in 2010-11 and how the game is now. Like, it's really opened up even in your time in the NHL. There's even less obstruction. There's more scoring chances off the rush. That they've altered a few rules to improve it. How have you had to evolve and change your game to allow you to continue to score at the rate you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think every player that sort of sticks around, I think they have to sort of try and adapt and tweak little things. I don't know if there's really one thing that I can kind of put my finger on. I think every player, when I go back in the summer and you sort of reflect on a season, you try and think about ways you can improve and areas of the game where maybe you have to tweak your game, maybe you have to adapt a little, and then you kind of get to work doing that. I think over the years, sometimes that changes. Sometimes it's similar summer to summer. I think it's different every year. I think that over the years, I think I try and focus on those little things throughout the summer and try and take it in the next season and be as successful as I can.
Jeff Skinner joins us. Jeff, I think this is the first time you've gone through unrestricted free agency, right? So there's lots happening. It's kind of the old McTavish line. It's like drinking water out of a fire hose. How was the whole experience? I know there was lots of teams that were interested, Toronto and others. How was the process and how stressful, exciting was it to make a decision in that short a period of time?
Yeah, it was exciting. It was busy. I think that having gone through that, being my first time going through it, I think didn't really have a whole lot of experience to draw off of, and kind of just, I think what surprised me, or I mean, I guess it shouldn't have surprised me, but what happens in the moment is just how quick things can move along. I think everyone kind of follows along and sees as signings sort of come off the board or start being announced. I think teams kind of have to move quickly and adapt. And I think being on the other side as a player, you have to do the same. And I think that for me, I was fortunate that Edmonton was there and interested in me the whole time, I think. And when it came down to it, that actually played quite a bit of a role. I think the fact that they showed interest right away and were consistent in it, I think made me feel like they saw me as a piece that could help contribute. And and obviously I think, like you said, there's some good players and it's a good team. So those boxes were already checked.
How closely were you watching the Stanley Cup playoffs? Like, did you see? I don't know if you watched Game 7 or not, or the Stanley Cup final. Do you watch it closely as a player in the league to kind of see, and so you kind of saw up front and close just how close they were to winning a cup?
Yeah, I think. I saw the finals for sure. I think the first couple rounds I wasn't watching as closely, and then as the rounds move along, I spent my off seasons in Toronto, so I think you can't really get away from it even if you try. But I certainly watched the finals. I saw the incredible run they went on, I think, and I'm sure there's a ton of lessons and experience that they've learned through that, and I'm looking forward to kind of learning as much I can from those guys having been through that.
Now, I know in the past, the older players have called guys as free agents, pitching them, just explaining, Victor Arvidsson talked about Matthias Ekholm. Him are good friends, and he was explaining to him why he should come there and such. Did you have any of the players reaching out to you to try to convince you to come?
Not during the day, I think. I spoke to Jeff Jackson and the coach, I think, and during the process, but sort of before I had signed, I think, and I think they offered for that to happen. I think things were moving along so fast, and you're trying to assess situations and options as sort of as they move along. So I'm not sure that there would have been even time for me to entertain that, but yeah, I mean, I think I know enough guys sort of that been around the league that even guys that, like, I don't know in Edmonton, I think there's usually 1 degree of separation between almost everyone in hockey. So I think actually one of my good friends is Ryan Strome, and he spent some time in Edmonton and had nothing but good things to say. Obviously knows a lot of the guys there. So yeah, I think you reach out to different people and you trust, and they were all good things, and I'm really excited and happy that Edmonton gave me the opportunity.
Jeff, you started your career in Carolina, drafted by them 7th overall, jumped right into the NHL at 18 and had an unbelievable rookie year, scoring 31 goals. And you know what? You played there, then you went to Buffalo for 6 seasons, and you've been, like a very consistent scorer for the majority of your career. Really, outside of the 2 years, I think it was 2020, 2021, which kind of coexisted a little bit kind of at the beginning and near the end of COVID. Were you banged up those years? Because for a guy who's been 10 out of your other 20 years or other 12 years, all being at least 20 goals, lots of times 30, one times 40. When you see a guy like you who doesn't score, was there injuries that year? What kind of happened in the 20 and 21 seasons?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I was injured. I think that this had kind of a down season, a couple down seasons, I think, and I think for me, kind of trying to find my way out of that and try and get back on track was a bit of a challenge. I think I leaned on a lot of close families and friends to that helped support me through that time. And then I think you just got to battle your way back and work your way through it when you go through adversity or when you go through down years. I think it happens to, I would say, most guys that play hockey or play sports. It's not every year you're going to have a career year. I think it's kind of how you kind of respond when things don't go your way, or if things do go your way, how you try and figure out how to keep things rolling. So I think that those few years, I think I learned a lot. I mean, I think it's one of those things where players go through it and they find their way out of it.
Well, you definitely found your way out of it, Jeff, because you came back in 2022 and you tied your career high in points with 63, and then the next year, you blew that out of the water with 82. So, whatever you worked on in those years, like, did you find you became, not to say you weren't tough before, but did you become mentally tougher or mentally more mature having to deal with those 2 years that allowed you to come back with 2 of the best years of your career?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know if it's sort of that. So if you could sort of distill it down to just that, I think that but I do think that any season you go through, I think there's lessons to be learned. Even if you have a great season, I think you have things that you want to work on. And I think those seasons, I think when things don't go your way, I think things get magnified. And as a result, maybe you learn the lessons a little harder, or maybe they're a little bit more obvious and they hurt a little bit more. But I think that overall, I think every season you try and learn some things and you try and take them through you. And that's what the benefit of having experience gives you.
Jeff Skinner joins us. Jeff, you're from Toronto. I think you know about hockey mad markets, but playing in Buffalo is probably as close as you can come without playing in a Canadian market. They're passionate there, but they've never experienced the playoffs. And Adam Henrique was on his call and said one of the big reasons why he came back to Edmonton, his wife had never experienced him playing the playoffs. He played as a rookie. They weren't married back in 2012, and he really hasn't been back. And she was just like, oh my goodness, it's just different. How excited are you, not only just about the playoffs, but the playoffs in a Canadian market?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone that watches hockey sort of saw the run that the guys went on last year and witnessed kind of how much passion their fans have and how much excitement there was in the city. I think as a player, that's kind of why you play. I think is to be a part of something like that. So, I think that obviously I think this group is pretty good, and of course there's still a lot of work to do. We have to start from game one, but I think there's some good potential, and we've got a good group of guys, and I'd definitely like to see and to feel that excitement.
Now, when you come to Edmonton, Jeff, will you be bringing with you between two stalls?
I don't know. I think that there is some teamwork with kind of the social media team there, so I can't take full credit for it. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a spin-off somewhere, but I think for now I just kind of try and focus on sort of getting the lay of the land and getting settled and getting ready for training camp, and then we'll take it from there.
Because you could do a twist on it and have between two Skinners with yourself and Stewart.
Oh, there you go. Wow. Well, I guess the idea's already flowing. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, you might have something there.
Now, are you a big between two ferns? Like, were you a big fan of that?
Yeah. That's how it sort of how it came to be. So yeah, that's just pretty funny.
Okay, so fans always like to get to know some players. So I'm going to have a little fun with some rapid fire with you, Jeff. Here, who was your favorite player growing up?
Growing up, Toronto was Matt Sundin, and then I was probably 12 or 13 when Crosby came in the league. So I probably flipped to Sid when that happened. But Sundin, I'd say.
Defender that you have found the hardest to play against in your career?
Probably Chara, I think.
Good one.
He's pretty tough.
Yeah. Now, if Jeff Skinner is watching games on TV, who are a few of the players that you like to watch and why?
I mean, I say McDavid and Draisaitl. I don't know if I feel like that might be the most popular,
No, it's for what you like, not about popular. No.
Yeah, I mean, I like watching all the best players in the league. So obviously those two are at the top of the list. I like watching Kucherov. I think especially on the power play, he's pretty crafty there. I think those three pretty much cover almost everyone that watches hockey's favorite players to watch. So I think it's a safe answer, but we'll go with those.
Best place you had wings in Buffalo?
Ooh, honestly, I hesitate to answer that one because people get really offended if you get the wrong one. I'd say, let me think here. Barville is probably one of the top ones. Yeah, I'll go with that one.
All right. What is on your Netflix watch list right now? What are your favorite shows? What do you recommend?
honestly, in the summer, I don't really watch much. I usually get in the zone on the plane rides and sort of get caught binge watching stuff. So I haven't watched anything. I'd say the last thing I watched was that Tour de France documentary. I think that was pretty cool.
All right. And is there your favorite concert that you've attended thus far? And then B, a group you haven't seen or individual that you'd like to see perform?
I'd probably say Ed Sheeran for best concert. I saw him sort of like way back in the day at a pretty small venue, and that was really cool. Okay. I think then I've seen him when he's been in the stadiums, but I think the best one I've been to probably was when he was at a small venue. For who I'd like to see, I'm not sure really. I don't know.
Are you a Swiftie?
My little sister's on the Taylor Swift. She's on Taylor Swift zone, so I might have to go with that one because apparently that new show's good. So
now,
again, pretty safe answer, I'd say.
Didn't you meet Taylor Swift?
Oh yeah, way back in the day. Yeah. I don't think that she remembers that, but yeah, it did happen. Yeah.
So she was just starting out, or where'd you meet her at?
Oh, it was like a meet and greet.
Oh, okay.
It was like a meet and greet in the line, yeah.
Oh, so you were just like a fan lining up to meet and greet Taylor Swift? That's outstanding. How old were you?
Oh no, I was old enough to be in the league for sure. I can't, so I don't know. I might have been 20.
Oh, well, hey man, nothing wrong with that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you now? If you didn't, who do you think would be the best teammate you've ever played with that should go and break a table with Bill's Mafia?
Ooh. Who I played with?
Yeah, just a teammate you've had. Yeah, that you think that you would do it and do it well.
Back. I can't remember what year it was. Back in the day, I played with a guy in Carolina named Kevin Westgarth.
Oh yeah,
you know that name.
Tough guy. Yes.
Yeah, he would. I think he'd do a great job. He's a great guy. He's kind of usually down for anything. He's kind of one of those guys do anything for anyone. So
yeah.
I think if you asked him to go through a table, he would do it pretty well.
Well, he's a tough guy and a scholar though, right? Went to Ivy League, pretty smart too.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like a wrestler a little bit too. So
yeah, he's a big guy.
He could pull it off. Well, Jeff, congratulations on the contract, and I know Oilers fans are excited to have you here and looking to get your first opportunity into the postseason and have a chance to play either with McDavid or Draisaitl, which, as you said at the start of the interview, won't be very difficult, whichever one you get a chance to play with.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. That's Jeff Skinner. So, hey, I love it. You know, he's in the meet and greet line with Taylor Swift when he's 20. Come on. Why not? That's outstanding. Who wouldn't be? Lots of people would now. She's rather popular. Pretty good entertainer. Pretty good singer. She has a lot of songs I like. Like I wouldn't call myself a Swiftie. I don't think I would, I'm probably not in like the demo, but she has quite a few songs that I'll listen to. Toe tappers. I still like the line, the one that she's talking about at 7 a.m. and you're taking shots like it's Patron on social media. Oh, because it was so accurate, man. Like there are people that do that. I thought that was, I think it's called, is that the Calm Down song? I think it's, you need to calm down. So it's a good tune. It's got a few other ones. I like it. So Jeff Skinner, if you want to watch something, you should go watch online a few of his episodes, Between Two Stalls. It's pretty funny, actually. But they could do Between Two Skinners. Stuart Skinner's pretty funny, dude. That'd be good comedy. So Tony Brar, you can thank us later for the idea. We'll take a quick break. We'll return on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
What's cracking at
Through on Sports 1440, Orders Nation, YouTube and Facebook. How you doing? Jason Gregor, Connor Halley, as we roll along. And tomorrow on the show, fun guest for Who Is It Wednesday. I think you'll enjoy it. This one will be a unique story. I'm all about the stories and the challenges to make it where you want to be. And sometimes making it there isn't always as smooth as you think it's going to be. It doesn't always go the way you want, but it still keeps you battling. So there's my hint for tomorrow on Who Is It Wednesday. Also, well, the Little Brick tournament, not Little Brick, the Brick tournament is going on here at West Edmonton Mall. If you're interested, I know many of you are around, you're shopping, you're hanging out. If you want to see all the action, be sure to stop in at the Ice Palace at West Edmonton Mall. The games get going early tomorrow morning at 7:30, the first puck drop. So good luck to Team Brick, all the other players playing it. We'll have a few. Jimmy Howard's one of the coaches, former goaltender, the Detroit Red Wings. He's going to join us later on this week. And more. On behalf of Connor Halley, Jason Gregor, have yourselves a wonderful Tuesday evening. Enjoy it. Let's get to the Command Sports 1440 update, brought to you by the Hockey Hero Society and their charity golf tournament, which features NHL alumni in support of the Hockey Hero Society and the Whitecourt Boys and Girls Clubs. The gala dinner is Friday, September 6th, and golf on the 7th. Learn more and sign up for your team at hockeyheroesgame.com, or if you just want to go to the gala dinner.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
The St. Louis Blues have signed forward Pavel Buchnevich to a 6-year, $48 million contract extension. That's an AAV of $8 million per season. The team also acquiring winger Matthew Joseph and a third-round pick in 2025 from the Sens, as well as center Rakpaxa from the Dallas Stars. They'll be sending future considerations back to both Dallas and Ottawa. Tampa Bay Lightning signing defenseman Victor Hedman to a 4-year, $32 million extension. And the Ottawa Senators signing restricted free agent forward Shane Pinto to a 2-year deal. Pinto, 23, had 9 goals, 27 points in 41 games last season. In the majors right now, Jays on top of the Astros 2-0. That's in the bottom of the third. Elsewhere, Cards lead the Pirates 6-0. White Sox and Guardians tied at 3 apiece. The Marlins trail the Red Sox 5-0. And the Braves up on the Giants 1-0. Tigers, Twins scoreless heading into the second. Later tonight, Phillies head to Wrigley to take on the Cubs. The Rangers take on the Padres. Rays up against the Royals. Brewers in Colorado. Athletics host the Angels. Orioles take on the Mariners. And the Dodgers meet the Diamondbacks. At Euros earlier today, Netherlands advancing as they knocked off Romania 3-0. Turkey does the same, getting past Austria 2-1. Tonight at Copa, you've got Brazil and Colombia in Santa Clara, California. And then in Texas, Paraguay takes on Costa Rica. Both those games will start at 7 o'clock. WNBA, right now, Lynx and Liberty tied at 42 at half. Also at half, the Sky on top of the Dream, 43-41. Still to come tonight, the Fever take on the Aces from Vegas. And at 8 o'clock, you got the Sparks taking on the Mystics. And some news from the soccer world. Canadian Tejan Buchanan suffered a broken tibia and is set for surgery tomorrow morning. According to TSN Matthew Chinetti, the surgery will take place in the Dallas area. That'll do it for us here on the Jason Gregor Show. Coming up next, we got another edition of Turn Sports. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 Update.